Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. You can visit our website at holybatcast.com, and you can also find us all over social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. And if you're a big fan of the show and you want to support us, you can do that on Patreon. You go to patreon.com/holybatcast. As always, a big old thank you to our patrons. You guys rock, and got to give a shout out to some new patrons here. Here we go. First one up, Mr. Joel Eckhart. I feel like I gave him a shout out before, but he renewed or updated his thing. So I'm just giving him a second shout out, Joel. Joel, this one's for you. You get two.
He needs to think about the future.
He does. Indeed, he does. So, Lieutenant Eckhart, thank you. And then we have another one, Mr. Phil McCracken. I don't know if that's his real name, but that's what it says. So Phil McCracken, if this is your real name,
that's awesome.
I know. I mean, and that's why I don't want to be insulting and go, is that your real name? And then he's like, yeah, of course it is. I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's kind of an old joke. So anyway, Phil, thank you to you two. You're awesome. Love it. Phil and Joel, you guys have made my week. So thanks for being patrons. And again, a huge thank you to everybody who has done that. It just makes the show that much easier to keep rolling. So Joel and Phil, this one's for you. We're part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can check out all those shows at rf4rm.com. And as always, I'm your Bat host, Andy DiGenova. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. This episode, it came from a mailbag recently. I love when that happens, is we get a good idea for an episode from a mailbag, and then I'm like, well, let's just do it now before I forget, because otherwise there's a good chance I will forget. And so we got a question of favorite DCEU moments. Now, of course, there is potential for that to change over the next year because we got 4 more movies coming. But for now, as of today, as of March of 2023, our favorite DCEU moments. Looking forward to that. We're also going to review the next episode of The Batman. We're going back to that. We haven't forgotten. And I've got 2 awesome Bat friends joining me. First of all, it's my good pal from down under. It's Brendan Lowe. Hey, Brendan.
Hey, Andy. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Welcome back.
It's good to be here. It's been a little bit of time again. Actually, it's been about a month.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's usually the sweet spot. It's usually, you take a month off and then you come back and...
Yeah, it was literally a couple of days after my birthday in early Feb was when we last sat down and chatted. So, yeah.
Well, thank goodness.
Actually, no, I tell a lie. I think we talked about we caught up midway through the month after the Flash trailer came out.
Yeah,
we did the mailbag.
Yes,
so it's only been a couple of weeks.
That's been a couple.
I missed.
It's been a shorter cycle rather than a month. The difference between this one and that one.
It's just the time away from you feels so long.
It does.
That I thought it was a month.
It's
only been a couple weeks.
It is.
It's
what they
torture.
Say? Absence makes the something grow harder.
The something grow longer. Harder.
The heart grow fonder.
Oh,
sure. Sure.
That's not the version. That's not our version.
Yeah.
And
Mr. I didn't even introduce you yet. You're talking it up. Just blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's Tim who actually sent in the email about the DCEU moments. It's Tim Rooney. He's been on this show before. He's been on most of the Real Fans shows at one time or another. And so welcome back, Tim. And thanks for writing that email.
Thank you for answering it. And thank you for inviting me back on. It's a pleasure and honor as always. And it was so funny. I was literally planning out all right, I have 2 podcasts planned out for the next week, one a guest spot, one a host spot. It'll be fine. Then Andy messaged me and I'm like, make that 3 because this is going to be a lot of fun to talk about this. And I was actually surprised that you invite me on. So again, thank you for having me back on for this.
Not as surprised as me, because when he told me you were joining, I was like, oh, that ginger.
Yeah, he did. That's a true story. I can send you screen grabs.
It looks just like how my family texts me. It's fine. Yes. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's what will be on your tombstone. No, I mean, it was your idea, and Jamie is still on hiatus. So Jamie, hi out there. We love you. he's been sick and he's still got a lot going on. So he's still sitting it out for a little bit. He'll be back. And I was like, well, I mean, it was your idea and you're always happy to jump on the mic, especially if you don't have to do the recording and editing. So you're welcome. So yeah, welcome back.
Yeah, that was like the reason, like when you said this, like, yeah, fine, I totally do a guest spot. Like guest spots, I have no problem doing because I'm doing none of the producing. I'm fine with just being a guest. And so like, that's why like, earlier this week I was actually on another Batman show. I was on the Batman Book Club with Ryan Lauer and our friend Preston, and so talking about actually Batman and Robin adventures. So, and we name dropped Brendan for because you're the one who told me about these comics years ago when they first came up on this show. So everything's coming full circle the past couple of days of recordings.
Oh, awesome.
It's a small world after all. So being a guest on a podcast where you don't have to do any of the work, I just got to ask you, honest question, Tim, what's that like?
It's delightful. I can just I'm given homework. I can do that. I can show up. I can attempt to be funny, and that's all that's required of me. And as soon as the show's done, it's done. I'm like, thank God, I can go back and do whatever I was gonna do this night anyway.
That sounds delightful. Maybe when I retire, I'll be like, listen, I'll go on other shows, but I'm tired of doing my own. I'm tired of driving. Sometimes I want to sit in the back seat and look out the window. Anyway, good to have you back. We'll talk some DCEU. Before we get to all that stuff, though, we also have to give a shout out to our sponsors over at Manscaped. So spring is springing. It says spring is sprung in past tense, and I'm still not there. I think spring is in the process of springing. We're in March, though. It's coming along. And so our friends at Manscaped have the best tools for some spring cleaning. They've already helped you tidy up the nooks and crannies of your body's basement, but this year, Manscaped can help you get the perfect presentation on that beautiful face with the new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. So make sure you look your best this spring by using the promo code BATSCAPED to get 20% off and free shipping. It's time to tame your mane with the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. The sun is peeking back out, which means you'll have to show your face in daylight again. So use that kit to make sure your scruff looks award-winning, whether you got glorious beard flow or some smooth, sleek cheeks. You know, whatever. And I gotta say, our friend Eric Carter, he did buy the beard trimmer, but now I gotta find, he even wrote a little testimonial, but God, it's like buried in our group chat. So stand by. Can I search? Can I do that? Beard.
Yeah, usually if you scroll up enough, it'll come up with a little search bar.
Let me try this. Here it is. Found it. This is from Eric Carter. Happy to report that the Beard Hedger is a fantastic product. I've had trimmers with adjustable guards before, and inevitably you bump the guard, it changes, and you end up with an oopsie and have to end up shaving the whole beard off. This wheel on this one takes a pretty good amount of pressure to turn, so it makes that a non-issue. And I said, I'm going to read that on the next episode. And he said, I'm continually impressed by Manscaped. They make great stuff across the board. See, he didn't have to say that. He could have been like, y'all, the beard hedger, not my fave, but he loves it. So thank goodness. I'm glad Eric tested it out for us. Because again, I'm not really a beardy guy, so I don't really need it for me. But the rest of their stuff has always been really great. And if you are someone who keeps a beard or you want to keep that beard trimmed up, sounds like the Beard Hedger is another quality product from Manscaped. So go to manscaped.com, take a look, see if it's something that piques your interest. But please use that promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. BATSCAPED. That way you are getting something for yourself, you're saving money, and you're supporting Holy BatCast in the process. Everybody wins. So yeah, would certainly appreciate that. And if you're not interested in the Beard Hedger, get something else. Get the deodorant, get the shampoo, get the body wash, all good stuff. They have great stuff. And so, yeah, please go to Manscaped, check it out, and make yourself a purchase. Use that promo code BATSCAPED. Now, let's get this party started. The DCEU, at least the current incarnation. Well, I mean, God, it's not even the original incarnation anymore. But the current incarnation is kind of sort of coming to a close. We'll see. We'll check back in about a year, see what it looks like. But as we are ramping down with the current DCEU, it would be fun to look back and share some of our favorite moments. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to share our top 5 moments from the DC Extended Universe. never did like the DCEU moniker. I'll be honest. Never been a big fan. That's why I always preferred DC films because that's what they said. But oh well, we've all embraced it. Anyway, this did come from Tim. It was Tim's idea, and one of the thoughts was like, well, do we just go movie by movie and share our favorite? And I'm like, first of all, that's kind of easy. It also might be kind of long. And I also feel like we'd get a lot of overlap that way. So I'm like, let's be disciplined and let's each pick 5. Because I feel like we'll have a little more variety that way. So we'll do it just like we do the Real Fans episodes for like the best or worst of the year or things like that. We just go around in a circle, count our way from 5 up to 1. So we'll start with number 5 and then make our way up to 1. And Tim, because you're our guest, I'm going to let you get started. What is your number 5 favorite DCEU moment?
Yeah, I had a feeling that I would go first, and that my number 5 choice would be controversial, and even like I even expressed my concern to Andy prior to recording. But my number 5 of the best DCEU moments is actually from the theatrical cut of Justice League. Now, before everybody deletes the episode, hear me out because I think it's a really wonderful moment.
I respect the balls. I'm just saying, I respect you going there.
Because I love this interaction. It's when Cyborg is trying to separate the mother boxes and he yells for Superman, and Superman's listening. All right, what do we need to do? And he asks, will there be any blowback? Cyborg says, yeah, but I think you're going to take it. Then Superman responds, okay, because I'm really happy to be alive right now. And Cyborg says, so am I. And it's just a really genuine human moment between Cyborg and Superman right there. I mean, that's one of the things I like. As cool as Superman looks like in Zack Snyder's Justice League when he comes to save everybody in the climax of that movie, it's just this little human moment between those two League members that really sings to me. So that's my number 5.
I respect it. I really do. And, you know, like as much of a mess as that movie is, there are nice moments. And what I like about this one is that it is a really good moment that I feel like is rarely mentioned, especially now because the whole movie has sort of been dismissed. But you're right. That's a great interaction between those characters. So I appreciate you coming in with a wild card from the very beginning.
Well, honestly, I was seriously considering adding in a moment from that movie too, where they're saving the hostages and Flash says how he doesn't, he just normally pushes people and runs away, and how Batman gives him that talk of just save one, and you'll
that was my
you'll know
contender
what
as
to
well.
do. Because that's a great moment as well.
I agree. I love that moment. So yeah, I mean, for all its flaws, there is good stuff in there, and those are 2 great examples. So Tim, all right. I think everyone will forgive you. Our listeners are super nice and understanding, and they'll all forgive you. And
yes, that is true.
Now they have no choice because I put it out there. No, good. All right. A little off the beaten path, but I'm into it. Brendan, what about you? What's your number 5?
My number 5 is Superman's first flight from Man of Steel.
Okay.
Yeah, like I do count it from when he comes out of the craft, but it's more the moment after he crashes into the mountain and then tries again. And you've got Jor-El's voiceover doing the they'll I'm not going to butcher it, but they'll be behind you, they'll stumble, they'll fall, and but in time they will join you in the sun. And you're standing there, listening to his father's words, embracing the sun's rays, and you just see it all click for him. And goes down on the one knee with the fist on the ground, and you start seeing the gravity start to be distorted, which is that gets repeated a few times in Snyder's films with him. And that Zimmer score kicks in, and it's the best Superman's ever looked flying. And the look on his face of just absolute joy, and you're like going through the desert and over the ocean, and sort of then that almost, or I think it would be a deliberate homage to the Reeve shot of him coming up and then sort of doubling back with the earth behind him, and then just that sonic boom at the end. It's awesome, and I don't think Superman's ever looked better.
Nice. Tim, anything you want to add to that?
And especially love when he's not good at it right away.
Yes.
Where he eats shit and like takes out like the top of a mountain at one point, but doesn't let that stop him. He tries again, and I absolutely think you're right, Brendan. Like I feel like that has to be an homage to Reeves, where he goes up into the upper atmosphere and then corkscrews and flies off again. That has to be intentional, and the fact that like those words and like when I think of that moment, I think of like the early trailers where we heard Jor-El's voiceover matched with that footage along with the rest of the movie playing. It's like one of those indelible memories I have of Man of Steel is that scene and that speech that Jor-El gives Kal-El.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Their relationship through the whole movie is like it's awesome. But yeah, I love that moment.
Yeah. Before I get to my number 5, I should put out the disclaimer is that this was harder to just pick 5 because there are so many that I like. I mean, I've said it before I think that you guys are similar is that like, I like to love all of these movies. I don't think there's any that I truly dislike. So picking 5 was trickier, but again, I like the discipline. And so there were a lot of honorable mentions that didn't quite make the cut. And so hopefully between the three of us, a lot of them will get the love.
Just quickly, Andy, too, I'm not sure if you said it because I had to step away from the mic for about a minute just before we got into the countdown because there was a massive bang in my house and I had no idea what it was. But I'm not sure if you said how you guys sort of were doing more emotional ones and...
No, because it doesn't really matter. I mean, that's sort of behind the scenes is as I was going through and I was seeing my list come to be, I was like, oh, what would be fun as a follow-up to this is to do 5 favorite action sequences in the DCEU.
Yeah.
And it's not like I left those off this intentionally, but I just went, as I was making the decisions, I was like, okay, like here's a really great action scene, but here's a really great like character moment. And I found myself gravitating more towards the character moments. And I was like,
gotcha.
Man, these action scenes are so good. That feels like another episode to come. So
yeah, because mine could be a little bit more actiony than what you guys have, but I've
actually got a little bit of both.
Yeah, so do I. But yeah, I just thought I wasn't sure if you touched on that or not. So
I did not, but thanks for putting it out there. Just telling everybody what we talked about behind the scenes.
Airing the dirty laundry.
Yeah, just airing the dirty laundry. It's all good. But I will say that the 5 that I came up with, there's a bit of a pattern. And we'll see if you guys can figure it out by the time we finish.
If your number 1 is Amy Adams' boobs in the bathtub,
No, that's yours. That's yours.
Gotcha.
That's another thing that was talked about behind the scenes. Mine is Ben Affleck's butt in BVS.
Right. No, that makes sense, yeah.
It made the Ultimate Edition all worth it.
All that more ultimate.
That's a real cheeky choice, I have to say.
Yeah. There it is. You get one, Rooney, and then we're cutting you off.
Anyway, so my number 5 choice, it comes from Aquaman. And it is what I am calling Aquaman Rises, and it is the big dramatic reveal of Aquaman. So it's the moment after his conversation with the Karathan, and he goes to take the trident from the remains of King Atlan. And when he goes up and he grabs the trident and he holds it up triumphantly, and then he puts it up against his face, and then you see him connecting with all of the oceans, and then it then cuts to the waterfall and him emerging from the waterfall, and that amazing dramatic music swells. It's just like a great hero shot. It's a great hero moment. It's an amazing reveal for the classic suit, and a hell of a way to like wrap up Act 2, I think I'd call that the climax of Act 2, or maybe the beginning of Act 3. I'm not sure where you'd quite put it, but regardless, it's just an amazing heroic moment in that movie. I love that movie and that scene. It's just like a big like fist pump, badass. Love it.
I absolutely agree, and because it really is the birth of Aquaman. Because the whole time he's been Arthur Curry up to this point. Like, he's had moments where he's been like Aquaman. It was showing potential that the king he could become, but in that moment, yes, that is Aquaman through and through.
Well, and you're right, like he is sort of reluctant to take his place as the king of Atlantis. And that's the moment where he finally accepts the call and is like, fine, then I will be the king. And when he steps out, I think even Atlanta says something about like the true king has returned or something to that effect.
Yeah, it was really weird that Ocean Master kept singing "I Can't Wait to Be King" throughout the whole movie, but I was like, huh, that's really strange for that character to do.
Right.
Andy,
And
you
delete
had to
Tim's
have him
mic.
on, didn't you? You had to have him on. I
You
warned you.
know, you're right. You did. You sure did. So yeah, it's the big badass heroic reveal for
Just like
Aquaman.
this, you don't listen to me. I give you full warning.
I know. You're right.
I wonder why I'm not invited back more often, but
all right. Anything else to add about that one, or we move to our number fours?
I'll just
good.
say that I don't have any moments of Aquaman in my list, but I really, really wanted to. Yeah, particularly the big scene in Italy. I just love that, but it couldn't make the cut this time, unfortunately.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, number 4, Tim.
My number 4 is from Birds of Prey, and is Harley taking the police station. And
Awesome.
Yeah, and it is my favorite part of that movie specifically, other than Ewan McGregor trying to be nice to one of the people that was hung upside down. He's like, boogers. And then he's like, get away from me. Like, those 2 moments stuck out of my mind from that movie. But Harley using her confetti grenade launcher and then even following it up through the fighting through the evidence warehouse where the goons shoot bullets and it perforates all the drug, like the cocaine stash, and she inhales and then goes on a crazy rampage beating up dudes. Like the moment that sticks out with me is when she bounces the aluminum bat off the floor and into the dude's shin. Like, that's something that will, or if it just bounces up into him, like that's something that will stay with me for the rest of time. And I think because it's very much like Harley, and it's such a just badass moment that I love seeing Margot Robbie kick ass in that character.
Awesome. I love this choice. Kind of like what Brendan just said about Aquaman is I didn't get any Birds of Prey on this list, but if I were to, it might be that. I mean, that's a contender for if we ever do an action scene episode.
It's one I was considering too, to be honest.
Because yeah, it's an amazing sequence, and I do think it's probably the highlight of the film. It's really great.
Tim's making real friends on the internet today, with his first 2 being from Joss Whedon's Justice League and then following it up with Birds of Prey.
And like, I'm not even the biggest fan of Birds of Prey, like overall, but like there are moments that I'm like, even I can't deny it.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, like what was it? Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress, and her her pep talking herself in the mirror about "I am the Huntress." Like that is comedy gold right there to me.
Yeah.
And then how defensive she is of her bow and arrow or crossbow, much to the chagrin, like Black Canary poking fun of her for it. Like that's something that I think about almost on a weekly basis since that movie came out.
Awesome. No, great choice. I love it. Harley taking the police station is badass. I love it. All right, Brendan, what's your number 4?
Number 4 is another Man of Steel moment, actually.
Ooh.
I've called it Superman Stops the World Engine. And this is one where it's not the action of the scene, it's the emotion of the scene. Specifically, how Jenny is trapped underneath the rubble. And Perry and Lombard are desperately trying to get to her. And, Jenny's like, don't leave me. And just Perry stops and just takes a moment and gives her that look and said, I'm not going to leave you. He's letting her know that he, like, everything's going to be okay. And he's going to do everything that he can to help her, even though they probably both know that he can't. It's just that comforting moment. And the Zimmer score just makes this scene so much better as well, and just that moment of them cutting back to the other side of the world where Clark is, and you just see that fist come up battling against all this gravity, and him taking flight and giving that massive sort of roar and then bursting through the world engine. I went back and watched all these scenes this morning, and every time it gets me, like, I know he's going to bust through the world engine. I know Jenny's going to be okay. But watching Perry and Lombard trying to get to her, and just that look of panic on her face, and knowing that if Superman doesn't destroy this engine in the next 2 seconds, they're all dead. My heart beats so fast in that scene. Just it's a gorgeous, gorgeous scene, and it's that I really love how they pair the action with that raw emotion. And yeah, I mean, I know it gets talked about a lot in when it comes to Man of Steel, and whether it's deliberate or not, I think in any situation like this, it does spring to mind, but it does kind of conjure up 9/11 memories as well, of just people going out of their way, everyday people, to help people that are trapped. And yeah, I love that scene. It's great.
Nice. Unexpected, but I love that choice as well. It's funny because I feel like, especially when the movie came out, I feel like that moment, or that kind of mini side story or whatever it was, took a little bit of flack of being like, well, why are we following Perry and Jenny? Why do I care about these people? And I'm like, man, I just feel like it gives such a human face to everything that's going on. And to your point, it really adds so much suspense to what Superman is doing on the other side of the world. And so for me, yeah, I'm like, it really works because it is this great human moment, and it shows the real impact of what's happening to the people in Metropolis while Superman is trying to stop it. Mm-hmm. And it's a very nice, to your point, emotional moment of them being in it together, and Perry being like, I'm not leaving you regardless.
Shows the kind of person that Perry is.
Yeah. So I actually always really like
Lombard takes a minute. He wants to get out of there. Like, he takes some convincing, because Lombard is, for the most part, a piece of shit. But even he steps up in the moment. He does what's right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you need to have the stakes there. Like, even if like he's saving a city, that many people becomes a statistic. You can't really identify with that. But the fact that it zeroes in on these three characters really makes it explicit. Like, oh, this is who Superman is fighting for. Now, I know why so many people like gave this movie a lot of flack for the destruction of the world engine and then the preceding fight between Zod and Superman. But you can argue this works the same reason why Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings 2 Towers works, because we know what these two armies are fighting for. You know what the stakes are, and you know the geography where everybody is. I mean, you can make that kind of criticism towards a lot of later Marvel movies where, like, don't worry, we're completely safe in this quarry. No innocent person can get killed here. Like, well, there's a level of suspense that's no longer there because there's no innocent life that could potentially be hurt during this battle. It's the reason why the Age of Ultron, Hulk versus the Hulkbuster armor works so much, because Iron Man is spending most of the time trying to save the people from Hulk rather than trying to incapacitate Hulk on his rampage.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, like, I think Helm's Deep's a great example. Man of Steel is a great example. There are a lot of great examples. I would even say the big finale of Aquaman, where when you have such a big, huge like battle or a big, huge action scene, or like, it's great to get those large, wide vistas of seeing everything that's going on. But at a certain point, you still need to be grounded with the characters to actually feel like you're there among them, and so it's not just empty spectacle where you actually feel like you're in their shoes. And I feel like this moment in this scene in Man of Steel does that really well. At least it does for me. And I think that's something that Peter Jackson understood with Lord of the Rings. And again, James Wan and Aquaman, and there are other examples as well, where you can have the spectacle, but you still need to check in with the people on the ground.
And the actress who plays Jenny, she sells it so well. That look of just sheer panic. And there is that moment where they kind of just give in and accept their fate as well.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have those moments, it just turns into you and your buddy fighting with action figures with a $250 million budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, my number 4 is also a Man of Steel choice.
Excellent.
It's the first fight.
There we go.
So you already kind of covered it. I assumed this was going to be a little bit of overlap. I've got it at number 4, but I mean, it is the moment we were all waiting for in the theater in 2013. And as far as I'm concerned, boy, did it deliver. I mean, I know it's funny because it felt like it had been forever since we'd seen Superman in a movie, but it had only been 7 years. But man, it felt longer than that, because I just feel like there were so many starts and stops along the way. And so I was so excited for Man of Steel. You know, it was one of those movies like Batman v Superman, or you know, the one of those movies that's like top tier of like just pure excitement. And Man
Yep.
of Steel was there for me, and so the movie, it does make you wait, but it doesn't make you wait too long. I feel like Zack Snyder found the perfect moment for this is the right time to then let Superman step out. And for me, it does start from the moment those doors open and you see him in silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened in the theater in 2013, I just started applauding. And then so did the rest of the theater. It was amazing because we all were excited about the return of Superman. And I think that even people who don't like that movie still like this scene because it's this great triumphant return and reveal of Superman. And then again, to then have it, and it's not just, to what we were just saying, it's not just spectacle. There's also this really great emotional undercurrent because you were hearing Jor-El as Kal-El is figuring out who he is, and he's going to test his limits, and he's going to try and fly. So it's like a very cool, stylistic, emotional, and like, what's the right word? Like a mysterious scene almost of him flying for the first time. And then when he has the false start, and then when he truly takes off, and you've got that moment of silence before it happens, and the Hans Zimmer theme crescendos, and it's this big triumphant moment. And you're right,
laughs. I forgot to mention, he has that laugh, and it's amazing
because he can't believe what he's doing.
Yeah,
you know, it's his first, and it's this amazing moment, and Superman was back, and I was so happy. And as I was going through and picking these moments, I think to myself, I'm like, okay, if I were going to put in the Blu-ray right now, and I've got 10 minutes, which scene would I jump to?
Mm.
And so for Aquaman, it's that Aquaman, getting the trident and coming out from the waterfall. For this, it's First Flight. When I bought that Blu-ray and I knew I didn't have 2.5 hours that night to watch the whole movie, I still popped it in and went to First Flight because it's just a wonderful, epic, heroic, and magical moment.
Wholeheartedly agree. And I think it's the reason why we wait so long to see Superman fly for the first time is very much like in Superman the movie. Like as a kid, I thought Superman the movie was very slow compared to, say, something Batman 89. But as I've grown older, and hopefully my taste has matured a little bit, but that moment when Christopher Reeves rips his shirt for the first time to save Lois is like a moment that you stand up and cheer because you've been waiting for it. And I think it's the same thing you could say about Man of Steel, of seeing the first flight, because like, oh, we finally get to see Clark in the suit, finally embracing his destiny of being the savior of Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It delivered. And then, it's not on my list, but then the fact that we get a call back to it in Zack Snyder's Justice League made me so happy.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, that's number 4. What's your number 3, Tim?
My number 3, we're going to Shazam. And my number 3 moment is when the Shazamly is born.
This was a contender for me as well.
Oh, yeah. This was probably my number 6. So I'm so glad it made your list.
I mean, from when they first say Shazam to the wide shot of the lightning to the close up of Freddy dropping his crutch, and then the smoke dissipates, showing everybody transformed, and the look of elation on Zachary Levi, seeing his family, his foster family, but his family just like him, and how proud he looks to see everybody like that, and to see Freddy finally able to fly, makes my heart leap every single time I see it. And like, if I was going to go by the criteria that you set up, Andy, like I had to pick one scene to watch from one of these movies in this top 5, this is the scene I would jump to see from Shazam.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. I love this moment so much. And I love that it was like mostly unspoiled when we saw the movie. Like I had a hunch it was going to happen. I think some action figures had leaked. So it was one of those things where it's like, I think they're going to do the family. But still, like I feel like it wasn't quite leaked. And so when it happened, it delivers. It's a great moment. And yeah, like Shazam himself is great, but the whole family is great. And it's such an amazing, like, way to build the climax of that film, and it's just like a really great superhero moment.
Yeah, I love the gag before it too. That grab the staff and say my name, Billy, Like that, I always laugh at that. And then then you get to that moment where they change, and like I said, it was a contender. I wanted to almost give an honorable mention to it because it was
I have
seriously
3 honorable
considered.
mentions that I figured we'd go through by the time we finish our list, just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they can come up. I'll tell you, like, yeah, I mean, this was probably number 6 out of my list of 5. Like, it was the one that didn't quite make it, but it was right up there. It's great.
I mean, like, if there's any other moments of Shazam I would have chosen, it would be either that, Savannah taking out the boardroom because it's pure horror goodness in a PG-13 superhero movie, or when Savannah's monologuing in the sky and Shazam can't hear him because he's a mile away.
Yeah. I almost picked the scene between Billy and his mom.
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
Because of how powerful it is.
Yeah.
But I tended to go with the more joyous, badass scenes. But
like, I always chose that as a joke as my number 1, just to hear, like, to imagine how people react. Like, oh yeah, my number 1, when Billy's mom rejects him, just for like 30 seconds, leave it in the air.
Honestly, when you guys
react.
said that you were kind of leaning towards more emotional moments, I genuinely thought someone was going to bring it up.
Like I said, I considered it, but like the first thing I did was I picked my favorite moment from every movie, and then narrowed it down to 5. Yeah. And so like it was sort of between that and the Shazamily, and I was like, well, the Shazamily is much more of like a hell yeah. And I think I applauded in the theater. So I didn't applaud when Billy's mom rejected him. But that would have been pretty messed up. Yeah, rotten kid.
There's some scumbag in this one theater. We gotta throw him out.
Awesome. All right, the Shazamily is born. What about you, Brendan? What's your number 3?
Number 3 comes from Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it is Barry saving Iris.
Okay.
I love this scene. I cried the first time I watched it. I've cried pretty much every other time I've watched the movie. In this scene, for a start, the effects are amazing. It's one of the best speedster scenes ever, in my opinion. I love the inclusion of Song to the Siren in this scene. It gives it so much weight, and the lyric of, here I am waiting to hold you, because I don't know to what extent we'll ever get to see it now, obviously, but we know what those two meeting means. And they just have the way that they look at each other. It's love at first sight. And I love the care that I'm getting a bit choked up talking about. I love the care that Barry takes with Iris, how he takes that moment to look at her. He brushes her hair out of her face. He puts her in the brace position as well, which I love that they included that. Like he just takes so much care of her in what is a nanosecond of time, but to him it's an eternity. And it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I also liked how sort of the moment of levity in it as well, how he sees the hot dog, and it's not the bizarre moment of there being a hot dog floating by in midair as well, because that itself is funny, and it's not him grabbing it, because that's funny as well. It's very, very, very quick, and if you blink and you'll miss it, sort of no pun intended with it being a speedster scene. It's when he puts it in his pocket, and Barry just has this, like, his face just lights up with the biggest smile, because he's just like he knows what he can do with it. And, and that pays off at the end of when everything goes back to real time. But he just has this look of absolute joy, and he practically pisses himself laughing, but it's very, very brief. And then he straight away is like back to what's important and saving Iris. And I love it. And I've fallen in love with that song ever since. I play it all the time. It's so beautiful. And I guess technically it's an action scene, but it's not. It's
kind of, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah.
it goes both ways.
It's not the takeaway of the scene from me. It's not the action aspect of it. It's just that moment of pure love. And like I said, it's beautiful. Like I can't say any more. It's just absolutely beautiful. Breaks my heart every time.
Nice. Yeah, that's another unexpected choice, but it's a nice choice. I mean, I will say this, again, not he's not everybody's bag, but Zack Snyder, I think, knows how to make a moment. And we talked about that with Man of Steel and First Flight, but I think you're right. This is another one where he took this moment of this like a meet cute between Barry and Iris and made it this huge epic moment, and I love that. For it to be the beginning of their love story, and he makes it this really prolonged and cool and magical and imaginative and weird moment.
Like when I said we were doing this, Jess straight away was just like, well, I know 3 of yours, and she said the top 2, and she's like, and then like, and where's Barry save Iris? Is that? I'm like, of course it's going to be in there. Like she knew. Like I absolutely adore that scene. I love it so much.
Awesome. Anything to add, Tim?
It is like I want to know how good was that cheeseburger to that truck driver that he was willing to cause such a catastrophe that because he dropped it. But yeah, like the love at first sight, like what like ran through my mind when Barry leaves the Speed Force and like he and Iris have that moment when she's landed on the ground and she kind of gives him like the Nala eyes, like from the Lion King, because she's like she's so infatuated with Barry right away as a car is blowing up behind her. And, like I know it's not everybody's bag, especially like the grabbing the hot dog out of the air and feeding it to the dogs, but like the moment like that sticks out to me is when he pivots on the balls of his feet and he rips up his sneakers.
Yeah. That's great.
Like, I'm like, that's a really cool detail, or how gently he has to be, or how gentle he can be, and how it spiderwebs the entire window as he runs through it. Like it's those little moments that I've always like that stick with me when I think of that moment between Barry and Iris.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Great choice. My number 3 also comes from Zack Snyder's Justice League. It also stars the Flash, and I thought we were going to match, Brendan. I thought we were going to.
Look, if it's the moment I'm thinking, then again, very, very much in the conversation for being part of this. But look, I'll be honest, the Barry Saves Iris is the only comic book movie that's seen in a comic book movie that's ever made me cry. So it had to be that one.
All right, that's fair. It is when the Flash enters the Speed Force, goes back in time during the finale.
Yeah, that was the one too.
Oh my god. And it's funny because like, I mean, Zack Snyder's Justice League to me has so many amazing, just epic superhero moments. And there were a lot that I could have chosen and again, but I think this is the one that stands out.
A top 10 list just from that movie. Like, let's
be
honest.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's funny because this was the one that was like, whatever, it won the fan vote for the Oscars, right? Or something like that. But I think rightfully so. And say what you will about the voting, but like as far as moments in this movie go and moments in superhero movies, I love that this one has really risen to the top of the lists, especially amongst DC fans, because it's so good. It's so epic. It's such a great build throughout the movie to get to this moment, and then when you get it, it's such a perfect payoff to everything that Barry's been doing up until then. And for him to realize what he has to do, and him talking to himself, and you've got to break your rule, and him saying goodbye to his dad because he doesn't know if it's going to work, and saying, your son was one of them. He was one of the best of the best. And like having that, again, that emotional undercurrent to also just a very badass action laden scene. I think we're seeing a pattern for that as far as, Zack Snyder, Man of Steel, and Barry and Iris, and now the Flash entering the Speed Force it's not just the spectacle, it's also the emotional undercurrent within, and that's what makes it special, and that's what makes it resonate. And this is visually stunning, the way that they show you him going back in time and the Speed Force, and the way kind of the ground appears under his feet as he is running, and the way you see time start to crawl backwards. It's so epic, it's beautiful, it's amazing, and I'm glad it was the one that got highlighted on the Oscars, because I think that it's certainly deserving. And yeah, for me, it's just a top tier superhero moment.
I can't argue. I really can't argue. It's amazing.
It's like it leaves such an impression that I wonder if Andy Muschietti, when he was making the Flash, he's like, well, shit. Now I got to contend with that. It's like how do I top that? Like, how do you well, obviously wasn't Zack Snyder's intention to it's like, yeah, top that as he walks off the field or something like that. No, but it really is like, as from a fan's perspective, it really leaves a lot to be desired from the Flash movie, which I'm sure it will deliver. But you're right. It is not empty spectacle, because empty spectacle for big action movies of the past couple of years, like you just say, the worst parts of the Transformers movies is empty spectacle. And I don't think this movie is not, because like the fact that Barry knows, like, I may not survive this, but he makes peace with himself by, even though his father probably can't hear him, he's just like, you know what, Dad? Your son was the best of the best, and this is what he did to save the world. And I think that's a very beautiful moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic, and you're right. I didn't even think about it, but man, it does raise the bar for Andy Muschietti, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I'll just say it real quick, and I never really thought about it until I was rewatching, because I did what you did, Brendan. I rewatched all my moments this morning. But as I was rewatching it, it did cross my mind. I was like, I wonder if it is sort of a nod to Superman the movie of the turning back of time, because I never really thought of it in those terms, because I'm like, well, the Flash can do that, so I never thought past that. But then as I was watching, I was like, I wonder if he also was referencing Superman the movie.
It makes more logical sense in this movie.
Yeah, well, that is also true. It's done better, but
Yeah.
It was just something that crossed my mind. I was like, oh yeah. All right, we're on to number 2, Tim.
My number 2 is Wonder Woman taking No Man's Land and the saving of Vale. I know that's technically 2 scenes, but I consider them one and the same.
Dude, make it 2. That's my number 2 as well, and I also include the taking of Veld. It's one scene to me.
Yeah, I mean, like the, I know, like, people were saying, like, oh, it's real subtle, No Man's Land, a woman goes and takes it. Like, I know there was like that backlash. Along with that, those were probably the same people who complained about the woman-only screenings of Wonder Woman in Texas. But just seeing Diana shed her coat and walk onto the battlefield, and much like what we mentioned earlier, like that we have seen like these heroes be heroic prior to this, but this is when they're solidified as these characters, whether it be Aquaman donning his armor or Clark taking flight for the first time. Seeing Diana take No Man's Land, seeing her deflect all the rounds of ammunition fired at her, and providing cover for people to be able to cross the field, and then eventually taking the town that's been under occupation from the Germans at that point, crescendoing with her taking down the tower with the help of the rest of the team, is like, that is pure comic book filmmaking, beginning to end. And I know people can say, like, you making a Mount Rushmore or a great list of action set pieces in comic book movies, like, it's the truck flipping the Dark Knight, it's Superman saving Lois from the helicopter, or Spider-Man swinging for the first time, and then seeing Wonder Woman take No Man's Land has to be included in that conversation.
Absolutely.
That would be fun to open it up outside the DCEU and include, at least include all DC movies, if not Marvel too. But it would be fun to broaden the conversation and do other ones. But
it'd be fun to do just a top 10 comic book movies, like in general. But that might be more a real fans thing.
That's a real fans episode, but I'm not opposed to it either.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Awesome, Brendan. You said this is your number 2.
This was my number 2 as well. Yeah,
your number 2 too.
For me, it starts when Chris Pine is trying to talk her out of it. Like, he's explaining, and his intentions are pure as well. Like, he, you know, because literally, like, no one can cross it. No, and like he says, you know, it is a bit on the nose, but it works in this movie. It's like no man can cross it. And
well, can I just say, I mean, it's also just like, serendipity, the fact that they were doing a World War One movie, and one of the big pieces of World War One is No Man's
Yes,
Land. Like,
exactly.
it's right there for you. It's not forced. It's perfect.
There, yeah, it's, but when he's explaining what their mission is, and she's like, well, it's what I'm going to do, and it's that moment, she kind of gives that weird little shimmy where she's, getting rid of her coat and everything, and she's putting on the tiara, and the look on the soldier's face, who can, he can see what she's doing, and he's just absolutely baffled. And then the slow shot of her climbing up the ladder, and that moment where, Chris Pine realizes what she's doing, and he freaks out, and she just goes for it. She doesn't give it a second thought. And it's I mean, it's the moments of, her deflecting the bullets, it's her getting the shield and deflecting the grenades, and then, yes, it's all about Gal, but Steve Trevor, and the way Chris Pine plays him, is also amazing in this scene, because the second he realizes what she's doing, he doesn't have any fear either. He's just like, shit, this is our chance. Let's go for it. He doesn't hesitate. And he's right behind her. And I I love the moment where, after she's, sort of deflected all the bullets and done all the grenades and stuff, how she just keeps going. And there's that moment where the Germans just like, she's coming, and they just turn and bolt. That, I mean, I don't know if it's really played for laughs, but it makes me laugh every time, just because it's like, you would just like, holy shit, like
I'd run.
yeah, they just run. And then, it has to include the taking of Veld as well, because, not only is that the scene, where she first goes into the room and takes all the guys down, awesome. So, it's sort of like the slow-mo, and which sometimes gets on my nerves, but it really works in this scene. It's when we hear the theme for the first time as well. And I don't know about you guys, but the first time I saw that movie, this scene was breathtaking as it was anyway. I'd been waiting for that theme. And when the theme kicked in, that was just like a fist bump. F yeah, like, here we are. This is what we're here to see. And I love the throwback to the battle on Themyscira. And when you watch it knowing what's going to come, they show Steve Trevor paying attention to that scene. Like, he has that moment of like, what are they doing? Oh, that's really clever. And then he sees that door and Diana shield. Like, it's awesome. He knew what to do, and she knew what she had to do, because it's obviously, it's a Themyscirian tactic. And yeah, taking down the tower, and just her like not giving a shit about the tank just before that, and just shoulder charging a friggin' tank, and then flipping it like it's nothing. It's so good, and it's the reason why I love that movie so much. And I know I can't include it, but for me, it's the period of time from when Steve tells her about why they can't take No Man's Land, to after they've done it, and they have sort of they're having the drinks in the town square, and ending with her giving the Nala eyes to Steve in the room. Like, to me, that's one big block of that movie that I love. It's so freaking good. And it's the reason why, honestly, it's my favorite comic book movie.
All
Like,
right.
I almost include the moment, just to highlight a moment when Diana sees snow for the first time.
Yeah.
And how enraptured she is by it. Like, that is such a magical moment to me as well.
God, I love
Excellent.
that movie. I love that movie so much.
All right. My number 2 is also a Wonder Woman moment, but it's not from Wonder Woman. It's from Batman v Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And it is Wonder Woman's entrance. Is she with you?
This is another one that was almost on the list when the trilogy meet up. The Trinity, not the trilogy.
I mean, it's another one of those moments, kind of like Flight in Man of Steel, where even the people who didn't like this movie still said this moment is badass, because this movement is badass. We've spent the past 2 hours of this movie watching Batman and Superman at each other's throats, and Diana kind of in the background, and finally watching them all come together. And her entrance, just as Doomsday is about to blast Batman, and Batman is out of options,
Oh,
and
shit.
he gives the oh shit, and it's amazing. And then you just see something jump into frame and deflect that, and then that theme kicks in,
Oh,
and the smoke clears, and there she is. The whole crowd went wild.
Yeah,
It's
my theater
amazing.
applauded at that
Yeah,
moment.
and it was amazing. So we hadn't seen Wonder Woman on a big screen ever until this moment,
mm,
and it's amazing. And so, yeah, it's a great entrance. And then to finally get the Trinity united on film for the very first time, it's historic. And Zack Snyder makes the moment. And so the interchange between them all, her saying, I've killed things from other worlds before. I like that. Is she with you? Ooh, oh, I thought she was with you. I like that. I think that's a great little interchange. And then ending with that shot of the Trinity facing down Doomsday is totally badass. I'm still a little sad they gave it away in the trailer, but at the same time, I know why they did, and it's still a great freaking reveal of the three of them together. So it still makes me so happy. But yeah, it is a badass moment and a great way, you know, to get them together. And it's like, I keep saying this, it delivers. It delivers what you wanted from the Trinity coming together in that movie.
I
I
love
mean,
the part too where Wonder Woman's taking on Doomsday, and she has that look of it's almost joy that she's getting
Mm-hmm.
to, like, when does he like almost stomp on her or something, and she gives that kind of a smile and sort of bites her lip and gives that look as if to be like, oh, you've messed with the
Yeah,
wrong person,
yeah.
like,
Where
yeah,
it's like she's like, I haven't had a challenge like this in a long time. And
yes,
it's like,
yeah.
yeah,
It's so
where
subtle, but
she's
it's there.
stretching her muscles. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 2016, the winter into spring, like the two big conversations about comic book movies was like Wonder Woman's going to be in BVS and Spider Man's going to be in Civil War. It was like we knew those two characters were going to be in those two respective movies, and everybody was a buzz about it. And yeah, we all knew Wonder Woman was going to have that moment of the Trinity being together in the trailers, but it didn't take away from it. It wasn't like the moment happened in the theater. We're like, oh, that's where that moment happens. No, it was a
No,
moment like, yes, we're yeah, we're here.
yeah. Absolutely. It still was an absolutely badass moment, fist pump moment, applause moment, crowd pleasing moment. It's terrific. And yeah, even now when I rewatch that movie and I know it's coming, I start getting excited, and makes me happy every time.
I honestly think the Keaton "I'm Batman" line from The Flash is going to be the same. Like, I absolutely understand why it's in the trailer, but
Mhm.
it's going to have an amazing impact seeing it in the cinema too.
Yeah. Well, and also like the build up to it, is something that you can only really truly get when you're in the movie.
And that
And I think
first
that's
time,
why
yeah,
I think that's why the Wonder Woman moment in VVS still works so well, is because now we know what leads up to it, and it makes it even that much more impactful. And I think you're right. Hopefully the same will be true for Keaton's emergence in the Flash.
yeah. Man, I'm wanting to watch these movies again.
Well, that's the problem. Is this morning I was watching again. I was just jumping to the moments that I wanted to review in time for this, and it just made me want to watch all of them. There was not time for that on this Saturday, but another time. And that leads us to number one. Tim Rooney, number one.
Obviously, it's Joker saying, I'll give you a reach around in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Obviously, that's my number one
Well, I think
moment.
we all have that as number one.
Yeah,
So
I mean, make it 3.
Oh man, no. In all seriousness, it's Aquaman being reunited with his mother when after they escape the trench. That is my favorite moment of the DCEU, because even though it is kind of telegraphed that she was thrown to there and that we didn't see a body, and if you never see a body in a comic book movie, you know they're not really dead. It could be years, it could be decades, and they'll still come back. But the raw emotion of Arthur being reunited with his mother hits me in a very particular place,
Mm.
and it's something that I wish I could have. But like I'm glad I can have it on. I can live vicariously through this moment, and that Arthur's able to have that connection again. He's able to have that support system. Like that is beautiful to see. And Jason Momoa, who has no problem playing vulnerable, he's not above, like he's not too macho that I can never look weak or anything like that. He's not one of those superstars whatsoever. But he looks so vulnerable and so open in that moment there that my heart just like leaps out of my chest when I see that scene. And it's one of those scenes of Aquaman that, much like the battle in Italy, I'll pull up on YouTube where I just want to watch that. The only problem is when I watch this scene, I'm in tears, and I'm usually in public or at work, so I look like a nutcase. So that's on me.
That's okay. Sometimes a good cry is healthy. It makes, it gets it out.
Absolutely.
I love this. I love this choice, Tim. I know that, it's something that's very personal to you. And I totally love that this moment worked so well, and really hit you, someplace really special. So I think it's a great choice. And it's funny because, in your email, you did mention this. And even then I was like, oh, that's a really good choice. And so I chose the moment after this, knowing that somewhere in your list was going to be this moment, because you're right. The whole sequence, I think, is great of them getting reunited. I'll tell you, I should have seen it coming, but I really wasn't. At this point in the movie, I wasn't even thinking about it. And so when it was the reveal of her, I mean, yes, I was like, oh, of course, but I wasn't like waiting for it. So it still kind of took me by surprise. And you're right, Nicole Kidman and Jason Momoa really sell the emotion of that moment. It's beautiful. And in contention with what I chose and what you chose is right in between when she says they need something more than a king, and he says, what could be greater than a king? And she says, a hero, because a king fights for his people, but you fight for everybody. I love that too. That's such an amazing moment between the two characters. So really this whole sequence in the film, from the moment they're reunited until he emerges from that waterfall, is probably my favorite stretch in the film.
Like, knowing you the way that I do, Tim, the second you said that was your number one, I just was like, of course. And it makes perfect sense. And I get it. And I'm so amazed I didn't know that would be a pick anyway. But yeah, it's a beautiful moment. It really is. And yeah, I
didn't mean to bring the podcast down a little bit.
I mean, not at all. Not at all.
No,
but, I mean,
it's great.
It's a beautiful moment it's special to you for a reason, and it is what it is, man. And I get it. It's a really good choice.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome choice. All right, Brendan, you're number one.
I mean, it's not going to surprise anyone at all. It's the Martha Rescue. Of course it is. It's the Martha Rescue.
Well, I'll say I'm kind of an idiot, because when you said had No Man's Land as your number two, I was like, really? Your number two? I totally expected that to be your number one. And then I went, oh, no, never mind.
I mean, it's the greatest Batman scene ever put to film. It's amazing. It's so freaking good. It's the kind of Batman that we'd waited forever to see on the big screen. And that's not to take away, what we'd had before, because what we'd had before was also really freaking good. But we'd never seen Batman look like that. We'd never seen Batman move like that. It was... It is a scene, and I don't do it with a lot of movie scenes or really at all, that I can, and I have done it before. I can just put it on, watch it, skip back, watch it, skip back. I can watch it ad nauseum. It is such a freaking good Batman scene, and and it obviously has a special connection with me now as well, given that sort of we've struck up that friendship with Richard, and we were able to hear all about it, which was amazing. But even before, even if that had never have happened, it would still be my number one. I mean, yeah, the reasons are so obvious, and I've said it. It's the best Batman scene ever, and I held out hope that and this is not to shit on this movie at all, so don't get me wrong, but what we saw from the Batman, nothing came close to it. I really hope that in the future we get, whether it's a Pattinson movie or whether it's one of the new Brave and the Bold or whatever, I want to see this scene be outdone. I really do, but it's going to be a hell of a task to whoever takes it on. And at the moment, this just reigns supreme for me. It's the greatest Batman scene ever put to film. So by default, it's number one automatically. All
right. Here. Great choice. Good choice. Good choice. Anything you want to add, Tim, before we move on?
Um, I think just from watching enough movies, like if you drop a grenade, don't go for it. Just run away from it. Don't be an asshole. Like, don't worry, I have enough time for the fuse to throw it before it blows up in my own hand. But that's another shot that I always think of where the explosion goes off in the background and Batman's clocking dudes in the foreground, and he's not even perturbed by the explosion whatsoever. Or even when he kicks the dude who's strung up and uses him like as a almost like a baseball bat to attack another guy. But I even love like the joke where like in The Incredibles of no capes, this is the perfect reason why you don't have a cape as a superhero, because some dude can grab you, buy it, and use it against you. I do like that's addressed here. But also the cape has like the punchline to that scene where Batman saves Martha and he's like, "Don't worry, I'm a friend of your son's." And she's like, "Of course, I had a feeling." The cape.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it was a cute button to that.
It is. It is. No, it's a great choice. It's hard to argue the choice. It was between that and Issue with You for me, and I went with the Trinity, but I think that's kind of why the difference between favorite moment, favorite action sequence, and that was where I was a little torn, and that's kind of why I was like, oh, you know. But yeah, the Martha rescue it's historic now, and it's amazing, and if it's the most badass moment ever, or to your point, the best Batman action sequence on film, easily, hands down, number one.
Yeah.
It's not my number one. My number one is now a little anticlimactic because you guys already talked about it. It's No Man's Land. I thought we would be the same on this, Brendan, but we're not. It's okay. But yeah, it's No Man's Land. I remember, when that movie came out, if you go back and you listen, I mentioned, and I swear to God, it was the most bizarre experience of my life. But sitting in the theater, and as soon as you realized what's happening, and she has that debate with Steve, and she starts to, like you said, she kind of turns away, and then she looks back, and now she's got the tiara on, and you're like, oh, she's doing what she wants. And as soon as that happens and that music kicks in, and it's this really amazing, dramatic music, but it's like this really dramatic, almost ethereal music of her stepping out of that trench. When that happened, I swear I felt like my body sort of left, or my spirit left my body just a little bit. It was like I felt my body like rise off my seat, because it was such a magical cinematic moment. And you only get so many of those, but it was one of those where immediately in that moment, it was just like, and it all worked. It all came together, and it created, I think, to your point, one of the greatest moments and greatest sequences in comic book film history. From the moment she steps out of that trench and into enemy fire, and it is slow motion, and that music, again, it's so dramatic and it's so wonderful, and it just really sells the moment. And I remember having a friend when the movie came out going, oh, they should have played her theme there. And I was like, no, absolutely not. I reject that. They picked the perfect music because of this very dramatic slow motion moment. And then we get the theme kicked in later on.
I was going to say that it would be so easy to drop the needle on that theme in that scene. And it would make sense to, but yeah, they held off, and it makes that moment even better later on.
The pacing that Patty Jenkins achieved with the sequence is perfection. Starting very quiet, very slow, very dramatic, and letting it build to the point where then when they get to, is it Veld?
Yeah.
Veld? When they get there and then the theme kicks in, it's perfect. It's like it's the perfect escalation after you get over No Man's Land. But this moment, and I remember before the movie coming out, people who had seen it going, there's a moment that's top tier comic book moment. And I was like, oh, interesting. And then when it happened, I was like, oh, you're damn right it is. And the way, she starts deflecting the bullets, and you're right, Steve falls in behind, and so does her crew, and they all start following her over. And the way she just keeps doing it, and drawing the fire and deflecting it with the shield, and then she gets to the other side of No Man's Land and just lays waste to those guys. It's amazing. It's dramatic. It becomes action packed. And it's also just a perfect encapsulation of who Wonder Woman is, or who this version of Wonder Woman is. And when you see that, you were just all in on her. I think that it's a great movie and I love the movie, but I think that because of this moment, that's what makes a great movie it's become an instant classic because of this. I think No Man's Land is a perfect sequence in filmmaking, and it's perfect for characterization and for style and for music and everything. Like everything about it works. It's just, it should be studied like the shower scene in Psycho or like the T-Rex attack in Jurassic Park. No Man's Land is up there with those, in my opinion.
Something that none of us have mentioned too that comes from that scene is we get to see the lasso in action for the first time as well, and that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like the way it starts, and it starts purely defensive, and then she draws the fire, and then she gets over, and it becomes offensive. And then by the time they get to Velt, she has the sword and the shield, and she starts just going crazy. But then as they get out into the courtyard, yes, the lasso comes out, and you see the lasso in action in a way that we have never seen.
We've never seen it, yeah.
I mean, there's like two things that I think of based on this conversation about this moment, is that if you put the theme, Wonder Woman's theme, when she climbs out of the trench and onto No Man's Land, that's her looking like a badass, because that's a very pumped up theme. I don't think that's the emotion you want. You want something triumphant. That's why it has that big orchestra behind it, and the like it lifts you up. And when she gets to the town of Vale and she does what she does best by kicking ass, that's when you use it. That's the appropriate time to use that theme. And an image that always comes to mind when I think about this is when she's actually held down by all the fire, and like the image is blue green for the rest of it, but all the orange is coming off the tracer fire and the ricochets off her shield. Like that's that's an image when I think of the best comic book movie moments, is Wonder Woman standing there firm, deflecting all that artillery that's coming towards her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And kind of to what I was saying about Man of Steel with the first flight is, this happens over an hour into the movie. And there certainly has been action leading up until here. There's obviously the big battle on Themyscira, which is another amazing action sequence. But like, this is Wonder Woman's real debut, and it happens over an hour in the movie. So they do make you
not clock watching though, which is
amazing. Yeah. Not at all. But then when it happens, boy, do they reward your patience.
Mm-hmm.
It is everything that you want and more. And it was absolutely worth every second of the wait up until then. And again, it's never boring up until then. You're never going, well, come on, let's move this along. Never. It's perfectly paced. But the fact that I thought this happened at the hour mark, but no, it's like an hour 5, an hour 8, somewhere in there. Like it's well into it. But oh man, like it's worth the wait.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I wanted to watch the whole movie, but what's funny is, I put it on and I sent a video to you, Brendan, I put it on
too, by the way.
and Harley is on the couch and she starts watching it and she was just locked in to
she
the
almost
entire
clapped.
sequence.
Like she clapped her little hands.
Yeah, she had like little baby claps of her watching the No Man's Land sequence, and I was so happy. And I should have been watching the TV, but instead I was watching Harley, and I was like, oh, I've got to get this on video. It's so cute. So she agrees. It's great.
And how special is it going to be in the future watching that movie with her when she's older?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I like that all of us had a different number one, actually.
And there was very large mix.
It was, but No Man's Land was on all of our lists. And I think that's the only thing that is on all of our lists. It's the only one that made all 3 lists.
Like you and I doubled up a bit. Tim and I doubled up a bit.
Yeah. So, number ones are the reuniting of Arthur and his mother in Aquaman, the Martha rescue in Batman vs. Superman, and No Man's Land in Wonder Woman. I like that variety.
I love the fact that the 3 number ones are James Wan, Zack Snyder, and Patty Jenkins too.
Yeah. Yep. And so did you happen to notice the pattern of my choices? I don't know if you were paying attention.
No.
So 4 of the 5 were essentially the reveal of a hero.
Oh, yeah, true.
Huh.
So
Now that you say it.
yeah, so my number 5 was Aquaman's reveal coming out of the waterfall. My number 4 was Superman's first flight. Number 3, Barry enters the Speed Force, not a reveal. Number 2, Issue with You, is Wonder Woman's reveal in BVS. And then number 1, No Man's Land, Wonder Woman's reveal in Wonder Woman. So I guess I like a good dramatic superhero reveal.
You like a Wonder Woman reveal, is what
I do too. I'll always take another.
I was gonna say, do you really argue with him why he won't? Like, I'll always take more Wonder Woman reveals.
Same. I thought it was interesting looking at my list too. That and I don't want to sound like some douche on Twitter, but like 4 of my 5 are Zack Snyder moments.
3 of my 5 are.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said earlier, we are fans of Zack Snyder, even though we can appreciate movies that aren't made by Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
But I do think that like he is a very cinematic filmmaker, and I think that when he wants a moment to play, he really goes all in on that moment. And so when you talk about Barry and Iris's meet cute, or the first flight, or the introduction of Wonder Woman and BVS, he knew how important those moments were. And he makes those moments big, memorable, cinematic moments. And so it makes sense. Like that is one of his strengths as a filmmaker.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I know, say what you will. I mean, I don't mind it. My opinion of it has lowered a little about Wonder Woman 84. But I can't let that tarnish my enjoyment of that first Wonder Woman movie. It was just the right movie at the right time with the right cast and the right director. It was just lightning in a bottle, that movie. And it's so damn good.
I mean, I don't take X3. I don't use that against my love of the first 2 X-Men movies.
Yeah.
So,
but some people, Patty Jenkins, it's like, no, like credit where credit's due. She directed the shit out of that first movie and deserves all the accolades she got for it.
Wholeheartedly agree. I mean, you two are making people on the internet mad because you have so many Zack Snyder moments. I'm making some other people on the mad because I have a Joss Whedon moment on mine.
Exactly.
So do you know what? Like we're in a lose-lose situation.
They won't worry about us.
Yeah, that's true. Do you mind if I go through my 3 runner-ups?
Oh, fine.
My runner-up, that was going to be my number 6 moment, is from Man of Steel. This man is not our enemy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool too.
And like just that moment, just that recognition between the two of them is just it's very brief, but like it's really good. From the Suicide Squad, Bloodsport saving Ratcatcher 2 from Peacemaker.
Okay.
Just that standout between the two of them, and that how Bloodsport immediately clocks what that situation is, and despite how boisterous Peacemaker is, he does get shot in the neck, deservedly so. And number 3 was the police investigating the house of the human traffickers in BVS and come across Batman.
All right.
Another a comic book reveal, a character reveal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love the cop in that scene. He's like, Christ!
I mean, I'd react too if somebody nearly took my face off.
He's done it. I love it every time.
All right. Cool. Any honorable mentions you wanted to throw out there, Brendan? Since
you kind of mentioned them all, like the reveal of the Trinity, the reveal of the Shazamily, Barry entering the Speed Force was another one. There was a few more, but again, like it's just I had to go top 5, and some just sadly had to miss out.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think we covered a lot of mine. I think Shazamily was right up there. Harley taking the police station and
that was another one. Yeah.
This is one that no one mentioned because it's a movie everybody doesn't like, but I still kind of like it. In the first Suicide Squad, them in the bar. I really love that.
I was considering that for a little bit.
Yeah. I that was on my short list, but didn't quite make the top.
I really like the confrontation of Batman and Deadshot in that movie.
Yeah, that's a great one too.
Or like even when they're in the office building, they realize they're going for Flag, and the squad literally squads up around him. There's just that shot of them defending Rick Flag, and everybody like circles around him. Like that's a moment that I think of when I think of that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. right, fun. Lots of great moments in the DCEU. Hopefully for everybody out there listening, we covered some of your favorites. But yeah, good time, good topic idea, Tim. Very fun.
I'm glad I could be helpful one way or another. Bad puns included.
I love episode ideas that don't require a ton of homework. They're my favorite thing in the world.
Although I was stressing a little bit about this because I'm just like, I know two of them, and then I knew three of them when I remembered the Barry Saves Iris. But I was really like, it took quite a bit of time to get my five together, and like what was going to miss out and what wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still not convinced this is truly my top five because there's so many other options, but I'm okay
based on the trailer, it could be the whole top five could be stuff out of this Flash movie. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this won't be the last time we talk about this. Like I said, I'd love to do one that's just action sequences. And then, yeah, I mean, maybe who knows how these lists will change over the next year or so. But for now, I like all the options. I think we had some good choices and it was fun to talk about them. But Absolutely. Now we're going to check in from one Batman to another. We're going to go back to the animated The Batman. It's been a minute, so we got to get back. We're going to do the next episode from The Batman. Guys, we're on season 1, episode 6, which is The Big Chill. And Tim was nice enough to send a gift from The Big Chill, the movie. Brendan, do you know that movie?
I do. It's, I've always wanted to see it, but never have. And I know it's got an amazing soundtrack, but yeah, I need to watch that movie.
And an amazing cast. It's an interesting
It's a real who's who in that movie.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Absolutely. But this is not about a bunch of middle-aged college buddies getting back together for a funeral. That's not what this is. This is The Big Chill. This is the introduction of this version of Mr. Freeze. So this one was written by Greg Weisman, directed by Brandon Vietti, and it aired on November 6th of 2004. Mr. Freeze is out there, and he's stealing diamonds, as he tends to do. But this Mr. Freeze, he's not stealing diamonds because they power his suit. He's not trying to save his wife. He's stealing diamonds because they're worth a lot of money. Because this Mr. Freeze, he's just a straight-up criminal. Doesn't have the sympathetic backstory. He's just kind of an a-hole who happened to become Mr. Freeze. And he's like, well, now crime's even easier. And so it was a heat wave in Gotham. They did that whole thing. That old standby for a Mr. Freeze episode. And so we have this Mr. Freeze. He is voiced by Clancy Brown, who, of course, did Lex Luthor in Superman the Animated Series and Justice League, and was just cast in the Penguin show.
About to say, yeah. Like he's becoming a legacy character too.
And it's funny because that news of him being in Penguin just came out, a day or two ago? And so as I was watching this, I was like, is that Clancy Brown, or am I just like projecting because he's in front of mind because we were just talking about that?
He's Maroney? Is that right?
Yeah,
Maroney.
He's Maroney.
And the mother from How I Met Your Mother is it Maroney's daughter?
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
No, it was the two of them.
Okay. So anyway, Mr. Freeze is out there. Batman goes to stop him, and he realizes they had met before. Batman was actually present during his secret origin. He actually was chasing the thief, Victor Freeze. And he chased him after a robbery, and he chased him into a cryogenics lab. And then in the cryogenics lab, as happens in comic book things, he falls into one of the pods and he gets electrocuted at the same time, and he becomes Mr. Freeze.
It's the Futurama scene.
Yes, it is. It's just
holy
funny.
Shit, it is.
So yeah, he's right next to Fry. It turns out that Nibbler pushed him in. Spoilers. So that's how he became Mr. Freeze. And so this is a Mr. Freeze that doesn't need a freeze gun. He still needs the freeze suit because he has to live in the sub-zero temperatures, but his freeze powers just come from him. He's kind of like Iceman, Mr. Freeze. He even gets around like Iceman with the ice slides. So Batman has a cold and he's sick, but he also is now feeling guilty because he feels like he helped create Mr. Freeze, and so he's having a little bit of problem with that. But then he realizes that no, he needs to stop Mr. Freeze. And so Alfred, over the course of I think a couple hours, he put together an Arctic Freeze batsuit. Alfred is very efficient. And so Batman actually gets to wear like one of those winter suits that you used to be able to buy at the toy store, but were never actually in anything. So
I do appreciate that they put him in it.
I do too. I like that he actually wears. Yeah, it kind of looks like the Night Owl suit at the end of Watchmen.
Yeah, it does actually.
And so, yep, Batman in his new handy dandy Freeze batsuit goes out and stops Mr. Freeze. And he's like ready to take a vacation, and nope, sorry, crime doesn't rest, and he's back out there before you know it. So, what did you think of the big chill, Tim?
A few things. Like, one, if folks like this show but shit on Batman and Robin, especially Mr. Freeze and that, shame on you, because they're very similar. Like the ice puns, I was like, oh my word, we're going this route. And
they really leaned into it too, especially after Batman and Robin.
Yeah, like I was half expecting him to say "Nice to meet you, Batman." I was really sincerely thinking that was going to happen, and the fact that it's voiced by Clancy Brown, who's just being fueled by greed here. So I'm like, oh, this is what Mr. Krabs is like if he got mutant powers. This is what would happen. It's a very interesting take on this version of the character that obviously very much like so many decisions of this show where they're in the shadow of the Batman the Animated Series, so they have to go a different way to distinguish themselves. Yeah. Now, you can make an argument if they succeed or not going too far or not far enough. I mean, just aesthetic-wise, because Penguin looks pretty similar. Joker, not really. And Mr. Freeze is kind of a medium, whereas like he's still in a Freeze suit, but the fact that it's coming from him, and rather than a freeze gun, so it makes him more different. He's not like a Captain Cold knockoff or anything. But yeah, it really is interesting. And somebody who I've had very limited experience with this show because I saw a preview of it, like a trailer, like on like a TV spot, and I watched like one episode, and I'm like, this is not for me. So I am very different from like I guess it's like how Brendan must have felt like when he's watching Batman Beyond, which is a show that means a lot to me. So the shoe is on the other foot now. But I can see why this is appealing to people. I get that. I just feel like, wow, they're really leaning into the ice puns. And as somebody who's a very punny person myself, like even I was like, all right,
wow,
chill, calm down.
It's got to be bad if it's too much for Tim Rooney.
Because like as a punny person, you can know when like, all right, now you're being lazy. You got to be a little bit more creative.
Yeah, you're the subject matter expert on bad puns.
Yeah, and like if you know it's a bad pun and you're leaning into it, that's different. But if you say a bad pun thinking it's good, that's when you're like, no, I'm throwing a flag down the play. That's not where I'm giving you a yellow card. No, that's not how this is going to work.
All right, good. All right. And so you said you've only seen a couple episodes, right? You haven't watched a lot of this.
No, I have not.
Yeah. All right, cool. Brendan, what about you?
It didn't go unnoticed. It's such a thing, and Batman the Animated Series is guilty for it too. They did it twice, where it's a heat wave when Mr. Freeze shows up. Yeah. I'm like, can we not? We don't need to do that. Like, it doesn't,
especially because it doesn't really factor into the plot at all.
It doesn't. No, not at all. But I mean, and again, Batman got a cold in this, and it's. I mean, there's some tropes there, but it is what it is. Look, I will say I do really like the design of Mr. Freeze in this. I really like that instead of it being like a helmet, he's actually got an icicle over his head. I always thought that was a really cool look. Look, to Tim's point, I do understand, and look, I know I'm the one who was like the championing for this to be the next one that we cover. The first season is a bit rough. It really is. I mean, it sort of every episode pretty much is introducing a new villain and their take on it, and sometimes it's a bit, so-so. And sort of you got the through line story of the cops trying to get Batman.
Oh yeah, Bennett and I forgot
Yeah,
they were
and
going to unmask him.
that does
Yeah.
pay off. That does pay off in the future, and I'm pretty sure it's in this season too. The Bennett character is kind of a substitute for Harvey Dent in this series because they weren't allowed to use Two-Face. That's all I'll say. But I mean, it really does find its feet once Batgirl is introduced, and then particularly when it's Batgirl and Robin. When you've got the Bat family in this show, that's when it realizes what it is. I think it in this, and like Tim said, it's in the shadow of Batman the Animated Series at the moment, and it's kind of going out of its way to be different. Whereas, it really does find its feet, and it knows then what it is. Kind of like what Legends of Tomorrow was like. The first 1 or 2 seasons are a bit like you got to get through them, but then when it finds its feet, it really finds its feet, and it's really, really good. But yeah, this episode it's a run of the mill introduction of a villain, and they've changed up the backstory, obviously, which they kind of had to do. Like, you can't retread what Batman the Animated Series did, even though it's now become canon, I guess. It wasn't back then. And I mean, it's a fine story for a random villain that has freeze powers, I guess. It's a perfectly acceptable middle of the road episode for me.
Yeah, I think this episode is fine. I don't love the Mr. Freeze spiky ice head. I don't love it. I guess it's okay, but like, to your point, I do feel like they're trying so hard to not be in the shadow of Batman the Animated Series to their detriment that they kind of trip themselves up by trying to avoid it too much. And then at the same time, then they, copy the moments of him having a cold during a heat wave. So which is it? But I'm just a sucker for Mr. Freeze. So even though this is certainly not my preferred Mr. Freeze, it's just fun to see a new version of him. I still think he looks mostly cool. I still like that there's the red eyes behind the ice. And I do appreciate that he's just a crook. He's just a crook who got unlucky, and he's using it to his advantage. And I appreciate that it's not the sympathetic Mr. Freeze. That's kind of a fun change of pace, because we've gotten the tragic Mr. Freeze for so long now that it was kind of fun to go, oh no, this one's just a bad guy. Okay, that's kind of fun. And I liked the moment where Bruce was sick and he was kind of delirious and he was feeling guilty about Mr. Freeze. And then he has the flashback to his parents' death, which, standard. But I like that Joe Chill essentially becomes Mr. Freeze. And it was a nice way of saying, I didn't create him. I became Batman to stop him. I wanted to stop Joe Chill. Now I need to stop Mr. Freeze. And so I thought that was actually a really nice way to show that of why he gets his groove back and wants to go out there and stop him after all. So I thought that was a nice moment and a pretty cool, serious moment for the rest of the episode, which, like you said, is pretty run of the mill, meet the new bad guy, try to stop the new bad guy, lose, regroup, come out, beat the new bad guy. And that's how most of these episodes go. Yeah, that's how most of these episodes go. But I appreciate those smaller moments throughout that I think work really nicely. I thought it was cool that he has the winter outfit. It's a stretch that it's done. It seems like overnight, and it has all the gadgets. It even has like little skis, right? Which is not far off from Batman and Robin with the ice skates. And I also appreciated the way he defeated Mr. Freeze, which is blast him with the the jets on the back of the
Batman Returns trick, as Tim pointed out in our group chat.
So I thought that was kind of fun too. But yeah, overall, it's like nothing special, but it was all right. And I also think, because I like Mr. Freeze so much, I'm also a sucker for when his powers are animated. I think there's always some really cool animation with the way the ice builds or what they do with the ice. And I think that's the same here. I think it looks really cool the way they animate the ice and his powers.
It really is surprising that this is written by Greg Weisman and directed by Brandon Vetti, because those are two people who are principally behind Young Justice.
Yeah,
it feels like nothing they would have do later on. It's like, it was surprising to me. And also, how much do they pay in licensing fee to use the Star Wars blaster noise whenever Freeze uses powers? And I'm like, That's a Star Wars sound effect right there, if I ever heard one.
Oh, really? I didn't notice, but I have to keep an eye out.
I'm pretty sure anyway. I could be wrong, but it sounded like that sounds like Han Solo's gun right there. I'm like, either
I
they
could see
paid
them
for it.
doing that. I could see that because they're so nerdy, and why not? But you're right. Like the pedigree of Brandon Vietti and Greg Weisman is a good call. But you know, they were doing the assignment, which is keep it kind of simple. But when you see the moment with like the flashback, and they have some nice moments where you go, okay, like they were trying. So
it's been a minute since I've watched the early episodes, so I did have that moment of like how he flashes back, and we've met before, and I'm just like, Joe, chill, Mr. Freeze. They don't. And I'm like, Then I was like, no, they don't, because I'd remember that. But I did have that split second of panic.
They're cool customers. That's why you remember.
Yeah. Did you just snort?
Yes, I did.
At your own bad pun?
I'm not going to deny it either.
Wow.
Oh, man.
If it works for you. All right. Letter grades for The Big Chill. Tim?
I'm going to give this a C+.
Brendan?
Yeah, C+.
Make it 3. C+. 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 That's all I ever hear. So that was The Big Chill, and next up is The Big Heat, which is the Firefly episode. So I wonder if there's a cold wave going through Gotham, and then Firefly shows up.
I can't remember.
We'll find out next time. So, yep, The Big Heat, episode 7. That'll be next time. But it's not time to wrap up just yet, because we've got to check in with you, fine feathered finks, and crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Darren, what is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
All right, let's see what we got here. We got some emails. We were hearing from people. First one comes from our pal Gaurav Venkateswar, who does our theme music. He's great. It's always nice to hear from Gaurav. He says, "Hey, Andy, I just wanted to say that it was lovely hearing you and Catherine on the last episode. You two sound so perfect for each other, and it just felt so nice to hear you banter with each other. It was special in a way that only two people who are meant for each other can bring out. Hope to have more of her on future episodes as time permits. Gaurav." Thank you, Gaurav. That was so sweet. As soon as you sent this, I told Catherine about it, and it made her smile. And I agree. Here's the thing about my wife, Catherine. She rocks. And so it was really fun to have her on the show. It was great. And
The episode made me sick.
Oh, did it?
With jealousy.
Jealous?
Say, what's it like to be a second there, Brendan?
Yeah, right? I'm normally, the partner when it comes to Holy BatCast.
I'm sorry. Did you feel like you were sitting in a shadowy corner just watching?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just pleasuring myself.
You had to
anyway.
go there. You had to put that vision out in the world.
Oh, I have pictures if you want to see it.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I don't need these. Like, if you do, I'm like, I don't need these eyes anymore.
That meme with the bleach in the eyes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Gaurav. And I agree. Catherine was great. And yeah, I'm going to try and have her on more often, especially when Jamie and Brendan got better things to do. All right. Next one is from Brian.
Oh, you could really have fun and bring her on when I'm on as well.
Oh, wow.
Have a real menage of an episode.
Yeah, we'd have to set some ground
It'd be a real
rules.
Devil's Three-Way, that's for sure.
It will.
Safety words, Blue Devil.
All right, next one is from Brian B. It says, "Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Andy, I know that we're close to a year from Harley being born, so congrats, and hopefully fatherhood is everything you thought it would be. My question, do you think that people are forgetting about Christian Bale when talking about great Batman actors? Personally, he's always been my favorite, but I've started to notice lately when there's a poll or a discussion, he's in the middle of the rankings. I know it's been 11 years now, and we've had 2 good ones since, but I feel his contribution to the characters is starting to be overlooked. Thoughts? Secondly, Andy, great job on the Screen Real Fans podcast. I'll throw my hot take out there. I'm not a fan of Scream 2. And it's set at the number 4 slot for me in terms of the rankings. I go with 1, 4, 5, 2, and then 3. I concur with everyone about Melissa Barrera bringing down 5, even though my enjoyment of the film remains. In terms of slasher franchises, what would your power ranking be? I'd go Halloween, Friday the 13th, Scream, and Nightmare. Hopefully you guys will also do this for the Nightmare series and other non-horror franchises like Aliens, Pirates, Jurassic Park, or any others. As always, thanks for the hard work on the pod. And Jamie, please thank the Raiders for me for the release of Derek Carr, who I've always been a fan of, and hope that he finds a stable home that supports him. Thanks, Brian. First question. Well, first of all, yes, Harley turned a year last week, and it's been amazing. You know, everything they say is true. The year flew by, and I can't believe she's walking around now, and she's just a kid, but my God, it's the best thing ever. Christian Bale, do we think that he has been forgotten? Tim?
I think so, and it's not a fault of his own. I think it's because of just like it's the relevancy thing. It's like it's the new car smell with Robin Pattinson being the new Batman, or Ben Affleck's shadow looming large because of the movies he was in. And another factor is that Dark Knight Rises was mixed, and so that unintentionally taints his standing in some people's eyes. Even though I do think when we're balancing Bruce Wayne and Batman, I think he does a fantastic job. He is up there with me. Like it really is. It really does depend on the day between him and Michael Keaton. Even though the balance of those two, of Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne and Batman, is very uneven depending on which movie you're watching. It really is remarkable that for me that Christian Bale is just one of those distillations of Batman for me, and I find it unfortunate that he's become kind of forgotten as of late.
All right. What do you think, Brendan?
Yeah, I can't disagree, and it's pretty much for the reasons Tim said. I mean, yeah, I saw the same thing happen to Pierce Brosnan when Daniel Craig took over. Like, he was everyone's favorite, then everyone kind of started to shit on him or forget about him. It's that new car smell, and the thing we've got with Bale at the moment is you've got, you know, Pattinson's the new guy, and he's off doing his own thing. You've got Affleck, who's still, you know, even though he said 3 or 4 times now he's not coming back, and he has, he's still doing his thing. And then you've got this weird situation where it's kind of coming full circle, and Keaton has come back. So Bale's not in the equation. So yeah. I've personally never forgotten about him, but I do get why that's the kind of the appearance of things, is that it looks like he sort of has been overlooked, and yeah, I think the biggest part of that is Keaton coming back, because it just removes that whole trilogy from the equation of what we're about to get, you know, in the next couple of months.
Yeah. I feel like this came up not too long ago on the show. So I'll say what I said then, which is I totally see your point, and I agree that he has I wouldn't say forgotten, that's a strong word, but I do think that, yeah, when it comes to polls or best Batman, it seems like he's not getting the credit he deserves, and that is a weird thing. But I think that it is about timing. You know, we're 11 years removed from The Dark Knight Rises. 11 years is a weird time because it's not old enough to be nostalgic for it, but it's too old for it to be new and exciting. And to what you just said, Brendan, yeah, we've got a brand new Batman in Robert Pattinson, and then we have Affleck, who like still isn't totally done because we know we still have one more coming with him. And then Keaton, you've got all the nostalgia for people who fell in love with him as Batman in 89 and 92, and to add fuel to that fire that he's back again. For all those reasons, I feel like, yeah, Bale's kind of the odd man out. But it won't last. You know, eventually it'll come back around, and after 20 years passes, people will be super nostalgic for the Dark Knight trilogy, and I think he will get his due again at that point. But it's funny because I tend to say I love most of the Batman actors. I love Adam West. I love Michael Keaton. I loved Bale. I loved Affleck, and I think Pattinson did a great job in the Batman. So, the two Schumacher Batman, you know, not as much, but all of that is to say is like I have a soft spot in my heart for most of the Batman, but I do think, maybe it's a hot take, when it comes down to it, I think Bale gives the best performance all around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
particularly in those first two movies, definitely.
And then I think it was what you were getting at, Tim, about like he had the most well-rounded material as far as Batman versus Bruce Wayne, and he nailed every aspect. And like as much as I love Keaton and he's my sentimental favorite and I love his Batman, he didn't have as much to play as Bruce Wayne, and I think that always held him back. And that wasn't his fault; it was just the material he was given. And same thing with Affleck. Affleck gives an amazing performance, but he was doing a very particular version of Batman that was, had lost his way, and he was disgruntled and he was distrustful, and so he was doing a different spin on Batman. But I feel like when you look at the pure overall checking all boxes, I still think Bale's probably number one.
And like it really is when it comes to people's love and affection, it's the Simpsons sheep moment that each one is like, oh, that's the new one, that's the new cute one.
Yeah.
And when it comes back and like the previous one comes back into view, like get out of here, and you smack it out of the way. You don't want it anymore. And I will say this: Christian Bale in The Dark Knight, more so than in Batman Begins, even though I prefer Batman Begins, Christian Bale made Batman a household thing again in 2008
Mm-hmm.
that the general audience knew about. He made Batman cool again. Had it been since 1989, that had not been that popular amongst the general audience.
Yeah, fair enough. And then ranking these four big horror franchises: Halloween, Friday the 13th, Scream, and Nightmare. Tim?
Halloween, Scream, Nightmare, Friday the 13th.
Copy and paste. Same. Brendan?
Switch the last two for me.
All
So
right.
Halloween, Scream, Friday, and Nightmare.
All right.
Honestly,
cool.
Really?
Nightmare, it's the one I know least about. I think I've only ever seen the first one.
You have so much. This, like in the words of Hellraiser, they have such sights to show you.
Yeah,
the last couple of years in Scarathons, I've caught up with some of these older franchises that I never saw when I was younger, and this year I think it's got to be Nightmare. Last year was Friday the 13th, so yeah.
But
That'll
you know
be
what?
fun.
Child's Play is the most interesting one.
That's another one. I've only seen the first one of those as well.
I think between all the movies and all the tones that it weaves between the movies and now the TV show, it is the most fascinating for me to watch. And the fact that it's mostly one voice throughout, not just like the voice of Brad Dourif as Charles Lee Ray, but oh crap, I'm blanking on the gentleman who created Chucky.
I know exactly who you're thinking of, and I can't think of the name either. But yeah,
we're gonna get up the call.
The Godfather of Chucky, right?
Yeah.
Don Mancini.
Yes, Don Mancini. Like the fact that he's been involved since the very beginning and to this day, and like he's a principal voice, and so you can't say, "Oh, it's too many cooks in the kitchen that diluted it." Like, no, this is one person making a very distinctive choice to weave and throughout the time with how he wants this series to go. That's why I find Child's Play to be fascinating, even to this day.
Yeah. And then as for other episodes, yeah, like I do think Nightmare is the last of those, so we probably will look at doing Nightmare next Scarathon. And then I love the idea of doing other franchises too, because those episodes are a lot of fun. I love doing them, and people seem to like listening to them. So yeah, I would love to do more of them. Next message is from Ricky Manium. It says, "Hey, here are my fan casts for the new DCU. Jensen Ackles as Batman, David Corenswet as Superman, Melissa Mahout as Wonder Woman." I don't know her. Lucas Till as The Flash, Yolande Noel as John Stewart, Glenn Powell as Hal Jordan, Alan Richson as Aquaman, and Sterling K. Brown as Manhunter. Any thoughts? Anyway, I just felt like sharing mine. Love, Ricky. Thanks, Ricky. I mean, I'd have to look up a couple of these, but the ones that I do know, I have no problems with. You know, I mean, we've seen a lot of Jensen Ackles as Batman and David Corenswet as Superman, but I wouldn't be mad at either of those. Glenn Powell as Hal Jordan and or Booster Gold. Yes. So yeah, I'm into it. Any thoughts, Brendan?
Yeah, I mean the ones that I'm familiar with, I can't argue with, and the others, I'll take your word for it.
Okay, Tim.
I like that list, but like I'd only switch up one. I want Sterling K. Brown as Jon Stewart. I've
Oh,
wanted him as
okay.
Green Lantern for years.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
and so like having been included in the conversation, I'm like, yeah, I'm cool, but like as much as I would love to see him as Manhunter, I want to see him as Green Lantern.
Yeah. Great. All right. Next one is from Bat Sam from Boston. It says it's been a while and a lot has transpired. So here's a few comments and one question. Regarding the Batman 89 comic, don't know if you noticed that when Bruce is drawn in his civilian clothes, he's dressed in the brown double-breasted blazer and yellow shirt from Batman the Animated Series. I thought that was a cool yet subtle nod to the show. The Flash trailer, blue cape and cowl, gray suit, yellow bat belt, enough said. Number 3, the Harley Quinn Valentine special. Don't know if you caught it, but Clayface's top half was about to French kiss his bottom half. The DC movie slate is exciting. We need a Superman movie. For some reason, it feels even more important than getting another Batman movie. And here's my question. After 30 plus years of Batman being DC's foundation, do you think that the public has reached Batman's saturation point? Thanks for creating the community, folks. Bat Sam from Boston. Thanks, Bat Sam. All right. Appreciate your thoughts. And question about, do you think that the general public has reached Batman saturation? Brendan?
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. It's tricky because we've never had the two versions going at the same time before. I don't think any characters had that happen before, so it's possible. I don't know. I think because there's a lot of time between Batman movies that maybe not. Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, really, there's there was 10 years between solo Batman movies. Affleck was always part of a bigger thing, and sadly never had his solo film. But I don't know, maybe. I mean, I'm wondering that maybe if comic book movies in general might be getting to that point. I'm not sure. It's like we're starting to see the tide turn a little bit with Marvel. I don't know if that's a quality thing more than a quantity thing, or maybe both on their side of the the fence. I'm not sure, but look, I hope not. But I could see it potentially happening.
What about you, Tim?
I think we're on the precipice of it possibly happening. Because, all right, explain to a general audience member The Flash that Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck are going to be in it. Okay, so what about that guy from Twilight? Is he Batman too? Like, yeah, well, he's a different universe. Okay. And now I'm hearing there's another Batman movie coming out in a couple years. Is that Michael Keaton? Like, no, it's another guy. And watch their eyes glaze over. Now it's got to be the number one thing for Warner Brothers marketing department to make those what I just said very clear to a general audience member and make it very succinct as possible, which is an uphill battle like most of the Warner Brothers properties going forward. And I feel like we might have hit a saturation point, and if Superman Legacy works, it might be the first time since maybe 1988 that Superman is DC's number one character. Because up until that point, Superman was the face of DC Comics until 1989. Because I feel like that, as well as the Death of Superman comic, really shifted Superman to a secondary role and made Batman the face of DC Comics.
I don't think they've reached Batman saturation yet. I don't think that's a problem yet, but to your guys' points, it could get there. I mean, it's always possible. I'm not worried about the general audience being confused with The Flash because it seems like they're really excited about the movie. They seem to get it. We had a movie starring 3 different Spider-Men and everybody got it. And it was a huge, massive hit. And I don't remember anyone going, I'm confused. Why are they all there? So I'm not so worried about Batman, but I do wonder about, having, as Batman fans, I love that we will have the Batman franchise going and at the same time have another version of Batman going with the shared universe. But Will there come a point where the audience is like, it's too much? It's always possible, but I mean, I've heard people say that for years now of like, I'm Batmaned out. How much Batman do we really need? And yet it still sells. So, I feel like Batman is just one of those pop culture mainstays that will live on forever. But yeah, you do want to, you want to be careful to not oversaturate it. But so far, so good. All right, next message is from Muhammad Adil. It says, "Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. I'm late to the party, but happy first birthday to Harley. May her days be filled with all the happiness available in the world. Regarding the DCU, for the first time, I'm the opposite opinion of you guys in saying that I don't want Talia to be a straight up villain. I would love her to be more of an ambiguous entity. Lanterns and Booster Gold are also something I'm looking forward to the most after The Brave and the Bold and Superman Legacy. Jack Quaid might be a great choice for Booster Gold. So potentially bad news from the DCEU is that Aquaman 2 has apparently been scoring low in test scores with lots of cuts. And Gunn's lack of comments does not give me confidence. What do you guys think? Your sporadic emailer, Muhammad Adil. Thanks, Muhammad. Jack Quaid is Booster Gold. I could also see that. I'd be into that. But as for the Aquaman 2 test screening rumors, I'm not giving that a lot of weight at this point. Gunn's not saying much because they haven't really started promoting that movie. They haven't marketed yet. We haven't gotten a trailer. We haven't gotten anything because they have other movies to sell before then. So I'm not so worried about that. And like, here, I let me list out the number of all the different James Wan movies that have disappointed me. End of list. So I never bet against James Wan, and we've heard rumors like this about other movies in the past, and a lot of it was a bunch of nonsense. So that's how I feel. I'm not giving it much weight at this point. Tim, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a symptom of like we're so connected to the goings on behind the scenes, so we go into movies with preconceived notions of what to expect, more so than just a trailer or reading an article about it, where now we know they're doing reshoots and everything, there's problems and stuff like that, where we're too connected, and so we like, it's very much like the thoughts in our head that run around in circles that make you mad at night. Like, it's kind of best, like, you know what? If we didn't have that, it would be a little bit better. So I'm not going to judge a movie based on test scores of a version of a movie we'll never see. Yeah. Judge a movie based on what you finally see in the theater. And Jack Quaid as Booster Gold, yeah. And going back to what you were saying before about the Scream, but Jenna Ortega and Jack Quaid carry that movie. Because I rewatched the 5 Cream or Scream again last night, and you know what? Their two performances are the real standouts to me in that one.
Yeah, agreed.
DC
Brendan?
needs to wrap her up too, just quietly.
Yeah,
she's a star on the rise, and she's great. So yeah, they need to give her something.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just stuck on Jenny Ortega and Jack Quaid now with Scream. What was the question again?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw you that.
It was about the Aquaman 2
That's
test
right, yeah.
rumors.
No, I'm not concerned because I'm the same as you. Like, it's James Wan. Like, at this point, I don't think he knows how to make a bad film. I'm not wanting to open a can of worms, but I'm more concerned, honestly, about, and I'm not to a large degree, but like, I'm hearing reports that apparently Shazam 2 is a bit of a letdown. That has me more concerned about anything with Aquaman. So, yeah.
All right. Next question's from the Objective Geek. It says, "Hey there, hope all's well. First of all, I hope that Jamie's on this episode." No, he's not. And so there's
Ginger
a whole
is instead.
Yeah, sorry. There's a whole thing about football, and I'm not going to read it. Sorry about it. DC-related question. One of James Gunn's goals for the DCU seems to connect all the movies, TV, and games, and nothing will be rushed. That sounds good, but it's also impractical and maybe a little narrow-sighted. TV shows take 6 to 9 months to make. Films take 18 months. Video games are like 3 to 5 years. And on top of scheduling issues, it seems like we would get less versions of these characters and less stories like straight-to-home animated movies. I'm worried they're putting too many eggs in one basket. Do you think this strategy could be a mistake? What are your thoughts? All right, thanks, Chris. Always good to hear from you. So, question about like, is the interconnection between movies, TV, and video games too much? Do you think there are struggles there, Brendan?
I mean, we've got to give them the chance to see, I guess. To first off, we don't know. They've obviously announced this plan for a reason, so because they think it can work. I mean, I can take or leave the video game stuff. I'm not going to play them anyway, so whether they're connected, I could give less of a shit. But yeah, movies and TV. I mean, different companies have been doing it for ages now, so yeah, we've got to give them the benefit of the doubt, I guess, and hopefully they can make it work. They seem like they think they can. So
Yeah, Tim.
I guess I'm cautiously optimistic because as much as they're like as cool it is for the interconnectivity of these stories, Marvel as a comic book brand, even back in the 60s, was built on the fact that they were interconnected, that Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and Jack Kirby wanted these characters to exist in the same world. DC's characters starting in the late 1930s were not. They were kind of silos in their own worlds. Sure, you had the Justice Society of America and then later the JLA, but they were most of the time they were in their own world, and that's where they existed. So you could trying to force them together can be kind of an issue sometimes, as well as look at the folks who complained about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness who had not seen WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
That's a potential that could happen here.
Yeah.
I will give the benefit of the doubt and hope it works for the best, but there is a great big gamble because they do not have the credibility that Marvel has, and even that is starting to wane a little bit, judging by the last few movies because of people not seeing previous projects, or it's just too much and they can't keep up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I do understand the concern, but I also think that, like you said, Brendan, the games worry me less. But I mean, the actual timeline is going to be interesting because how do you sync that up in a way that it makes sense if it's going to take so much longer to make it? So that's a valid point. But I do think that they're doing it very deliberately, and I think that that's great to have that plan. I will say, on I think it was the last episode that I had with Brendan where I tweeted James Gunn about the animated movies. He did not respond to me, but someone else had asked him the same question, and he basically said they're going to keep making the direct-to-video animated movies. Some will be in continuity and some won't. And I'm like, oh, that's great. That's probably the best way to do it. So good. So I think it's good to have a plan, but to what you said, Tim, and I think we brought this up relatively recently on a recent episode, is my concern is it can't be too connected because you cannot expect your audience to watch and read everything. You have to be able to jump in and out and it still makes sense. And like you said, for Multiverse of Madness, that movie doesn't work if you didn't watch WandaVision. And that, I think, was a misstep. And you can't do that here. You can't go see Superman Legacy and expect everybody who goes to see that movie had watched Creature Commandos. You just can't do that. So connection is great, but it cannot rely on that connection because you've got to be realistic and understand that some people are only going to see only the movies, or some people will do it all, or some will only see the big movies, and it has to work for everyone. And that concerns me more than the actual timelines.
Right. I mean, you go back to the big event comics in the 1990s, whether it be Nightfall or Contagion, Legacy, and the No Man's Land, like you miss an issue in one of those stories, you could be completely lost.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And it betrays the kind of the golden rule of Stan Lee when it comes to comics, that everybody's comic is somebody's first comic.
Mm-hmm, right. Cool. All right. Next message is from Charlie M. It says, hey guys, first of all, I wanted to say how much I liked the Valentine's episode with the missus. She's a natural. So I recently started collecting old trading cards. I started with Batman 89 cards, and wow, did that hit me with tons of nostalgia, especially the behind-the-scenes cards and the concept cards. It's great stuff. I miss the days when everything had trading cards. Because of this, I started noticing the Batman Returns cards, which I did not have or even saw when I was younger. But I found the entire collection for a good price. I got them, and damn, those things are a thing of beauty. Every single card looks like it could be a poster. They were done so well, even better than the original movie. It made me want to revisit the movie, which I don't often do, as I never really liked it too much, but I learned to appreciate it more, and however, this time I watched it in all its 4K beauty. It looks fantastic. It's still not my favorite, but I think it'll get a lot more rewatches going forward. I wonder if Batman Forever or Batman and Robin can ever win me over. Thanks, Charlie. That's so fun. I love those old trading cards. I have a whole set of the 89 ones. I would imagine I probably have some of the Returns ones too. But yeah, man, that was so much fun as a kid to it was a way to kind of relive the movie is to go buy the trading cards. And
I've got the Batman Returns ones.
yeah, and I'm glad that it allowed you to revisit Batman Returns and appreciate it even more. So that's really fun. But yeah, those are great. Next one's from Mark Jurosevic. It says, "Hey, Batcasters, I hope all is well. If I recall correctly, Henry Cavill shot 2 cameos, one for Black Adam and the other for The Flash. So do you think they will keep it for The Flash? I don't see why not, as we have numerous legacy Snyder characters, including Affleck's Batman, and there are numerous links to Krypton in the story, including Zod, which makes it logical. Cheers, Mark." Thanks, Mark. Oh, man, tricky question. Tim, what do you think? Do you think there will be a Cavill cameo in The Flash?
I mean, at this point, I think we have a cameo in The Flash at this point, depending on which report you read. So I'm not going to take anything. I'm not going to take anything as face. Like, I'm just going to be like, you know what? I'm just going to go see the movie. If he happens to be there, cool. If he doesn't happen to be there, I'm not going to do a 6-hour stream lambasting Warner Brothers for it.
Okay. Brendan?
Agreed. Yeah, if he's there, he's there. If he's not, he's not. But I'm not holding my breath.
Same. Yeah, I agree. I think he should be there. I'll just say that. He should be. If he shot a cameo, it should be in there because there's no reason not to, but I'm not resting all my hopes on it. All right, next question is from Brandon. It says, "Greetings. On a recent episode, maybe the last one, depending on when you record, a listener asked about living in Gotham. And during the discussion, Andy and Catherine talked about using their professional skills to make villain lairs. It reminded me of a character called the Carpenter. She was created by none other than Paul Dini and Dustin Nguyen during the Detective Comics run. She's a fun character that I hoped would show up in other media, but she might be a fun, low-effort costume if you guys ever needed an obscure comic character to dress up for at a party. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for the fantastic show. Sincerely, Brandon." Thanks, Brandon. I'm not familiar with the Carpenter. You guys?
I haven't read that Dini Dustin Nguyen run from Detective for a long time, but I do remember really liking it because it's Dini, so duh. But yeah, I'd need to revisit it.
Yeah, I don't remember it, but it sounds kind of fun. I kind of want to look her up, but it's a good costume recommendation. Tim, do you know this character?
Not off the top of my head. Like, I only read a little bit of the detective run that Dini did. Obviously, Sleigh Ride being the standout. I think that's the issue that everybody brings up with good reason. Which last time I read that, I was like, him shooting a manager of the fast food restaurant, and my girlfriend currently manages 2 Italian ice places. I'm like, that just hit me a lot differently this time around. It wasn't funny to me. I'm like, that's just very sad.
I know, me too. I know it's a comic book, but it bugs me.
Yeah, because he seems so sincere and wants to help the Joker. He seems like an actual good person, and then him just getting a face full of lead because of the Joker. It's upsetting. But no, I'm curious to see what the Carpenter looks like. And for those who have not read the Dini detective run, if you need anything else, Detective Riddler is a sight to behold.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next one's from our pal Jay Yaws. It says, "Hey, we talk about different elements of Batman comics that we want to see in the movies, like the Bat family or the blue and gray suit with that sweet, sweet yellow oval. But what's something from the movies or other media that you'd like to see make its way into the comics? Like an original character or a change to a familiar character, a vehicle, a gadget, story, whatever. Anything goes. I can't think of a clever way to end this email, so I'll just stop typing." Thanks, Jay. All right, so something from Batman media, movies, TV, whatever, that you would like to see make its way to the comics. Tim?
Batman suits on hangers.
Good. The correct answer, and I know, Jay, the only reason you sent this is because you want me to answer this, and it's the Duck, Penguin's Duck. It was in the movie. It was in the animated series. I don't remember ever seeing it in the comic, and it's time, damn it. It's even in Batwheels. It's time to be in the comics. Make the duck canon. Hashtag make the duck canon. We're going to be trending next week, guys. Next Saturday, we're going to do a trending event for make the duck canon.
If
Brendan,
nobody
any
shows up,
thoughts?
they quack up.
Okay. Brendan?
God, that's actually really hard.
It takes some thinking, but it's fun.
Yeah, like my first thought was Phantasm, but she's been brought into the comics recently, hasn't she?
Yeah, that's true.
Man, honestly, it's hard to argue with your thing about the duck, really. Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Well, what use are you?
But now I kind of want to see a street race between the Anton First Batmobile and the Duck.
Yes,
Yeah.
in the Flash. I hope the duck gets a cameo in the Flash.
Ooh.
Even if it was just like a trophy in the Batcave. Wouldn't that be cool? I had another thought and now it's escaping me, but oh well. It'll come back to me. I get distracted by duck talk. But something else from the movies that would make its way to the comics. Like, I do love that the comics they're really good about giving nods to all the Batmobiles from the movies and things.
Yeah, that's why, because my first thought was like the Batmobile, but like they do it, like they give those nods all the time.
Oh, that's what it was. It was, and we've had this question before, but some of the Batman 66 villains, I'd love to see them pop up in comics. Yeah, even some of the weirder ones, like Louis the Lilac and stuff. Like, I think it would be fun to find ways to incorporate them back into the comics. I would like that.
Like, I'm really like going back to the duck. I know we keep bringing up the duck.
That's okay. Jay likes the duck, so it's fine.
Yeah. Like, why this hasn't shown up in like Sean Murphy's White Knight universe is beyond me. I feel like it's perfectly set up to be in that.
Yeah. I know I'm looking around my room, looking for paraphernalia that would spark ideas, but I guess I'll have to think about it. Yeah, I have to think about it. For now, the correct answer is the duck and King Tut. All right, next email is from Sonia Gregory. It says, "Hey guys, I love the podcast and I love the song at the beginning. Sincerely, Sonia." All right, thanks, Sonia. Keep it nice and simple. And that amazing song, Gaurav Venkateswar. So he wrote in earlier. Credit goes to Gaurav. Thank you, Gaurav. You rock. Appreciate it. He also does he did the Wayne Manor Mailbox theme as well. Very talented guy. Next email, I've got two more guys. We're going to get through these. We're going to do this. Next one's from Stuart from Guernsey. It says, all these talks about Ben returning to direct The Brave and the Bold. Do you think there's any chance that they could be tweaking his original script to fit in with the new plans? James Gunn has teased Deathstroke and the Bat family will be included. Batgirl was supposedly in the original script, so I'm sure they could keep the main plot and just change certain things up to fit in with the new plan. Everyone has read Ben's script, said that how good it was, and WB had already paid for it. And if Ben's coming back to direct, then it makes sense. This could be a very strong possibility. I don't know where else Deathstroke would fit in with this first chapter, so this makes sense to me. I wonder what you guys think. Hope you're doing well, Stuart. Thank you, Stuart. Interesting question. So it's all predicated on a rumor of like Ben Affleck coming back to direct, well, not just any DC movie, but specifically Batman, the Brave and the Bold. First of all, I'll just say this. I hope that rumor's true.
Hell yeah.
That'd be amazing. I really hope that comes to pass because I would love it. But it's still just a rumor. But let's just say that rumor is true. Let's say Ben's going to do Brave and the Bold. Do you think that they would use parts of his script that they didn't use for the new movie? Brendan?
I mean, look, it's possible. I can't imagine it would be the script, but they could take elements from it. Like, if it's a script they own, like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Tim?
Remind me, wasn't his script like pretty much an adaptation of Arkham Asylum?
That was one of the rumors. Like, we don't know, but I do believe that Arkham was supposedly a big element of it.
Okay. Like, Deathstroke, like, because we know Brave and the Bold is supposed to introduce Damian Wayne as Robin in that. I think in the Son of Batman animated movie, Deathstroke is the big bad in that, and it's Batman and Bruce Wayne fighting him. I mean,
Yeah, that's
Batman and
true.
Damian Wayne, excuse me.
Yeah.
So that could work if you want to do that, but like, I just feel like, say if Ben does direct this one, I'd feel very uncomfortable for him because I feel like it's like somebody else is going out with your ex significant other in front of you.
I don't
Yeah.
think if he didn't want to direct it, if he signs on to direct it, it means he wants to do it. So that wouldn't worry me so much. Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
say when he's doing press for the Air Jordan movie that he's doing, and somebody brings this up because you know somebody's going to, I imagine like how uncomfortable that might be if he's not into this idea at all.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that movie looks friggin'. I mean, a movie about
I can't wait
shoes
for
being
it.
created. It looks so damn good.
I mean, I don't know. We don't know who's writing The Brave and the Bold yet, right?
No.
So
It's all rumor.
So yeah, it's all rumor. So that's going to play a big part of it. But I do think that, at the base of the question, if he truly were to sign on to direct it, would he incorporate some of his ideas that he had for his Batman movie? Yeah, I think it would just happen.
I hope he does.
Yeah, it would just happen naturally, and it wouldn't be using the same script. I don't think it would be that overt. I think they would still write a new script. But if he had things that he always wanted to see in a Batman movie that you would assume he put in his script, and now he's going to do a Batman movie that doesn't star him, you'd still think that he'd go, well, man, I really wanted to see Batman do this. Now I get a chance and I can do it in this new movie. It's kind of like what James Wan said about ideas he had for the Trench movie that he was able to incorporate into Aquaman 2. So it's not using the script, but there are just certain things that, you see that with filmmakers all the time of being like, hey, this scene? That was actually a scene that I had an idea for this other movie, but it didn't make it. So I did it in this movie.
Oh, I mean, it happened again. To sort of, sorry to bring it up, but like it happens with Bond all the time. Like they write scenes.
We get it. You love James Bond.
I'm just saying, but they do. They write scenes for movies that don't happen, and they recycle them in future projects. It's a thing.
Like, fun fact, they tried to get Madonna to do every theme song for every Bond movie starting with the first. And it wasn't until the one she did, Die Another Day, right? That she finally said yes. So yeah, eventually it all works out.
Yeah.
I mean, to be adjacent to Bond, Indiana Jones, like that gag when Toad takes out what you think is a torture device, but it's actually a coat hanger. Spielberg used that for 1941, and it didn't get a laugh in that movie. And so he's like, you know what? I think this gag can work again. He used in Raiders, and it's a really great moment.
All right, one last email here. It's from our pal Mark Bickford. It said, first, I want to say it was awesome to hear Catherine on the show. She's got a lovely voice, and you two are a lot of fun together. You should have her on more often. Also, while searching to make sure I spelled Catherine's name right, I stumbled upon her TikTok and saw the video of Harley's first steps. Congratulations and happy birthday to her. A few thoughts about some recent shows, and I'd love to get your reactions. A while back, someone asked a question about different interpretations of DC characters for different countries, and although I think Brendan was on the episode, I was surprised that no one thought of an Australian version, Wombat Man. I think you just picked Brendan's next Halloween costume. That's what I think.
I already have my Halloween costume sorted for this year.
Oh, well, excuse me. Next, in regards to the recent question about which movie vehicle would you like to own, I'd got to go with the Batboat from Batman 66 for 3 reasons. 1, it's as cool as any of the others with the fake turbojet spraying behind it. I could actually register it and put it in the water. The tumbler may be badass, but you aren't going to get far on iDrive or the Indiana Toll Road. And I live in Maine and I don't have a boat. All right. That's very sound reasoning. Finally, 3 questions. Number 1, do you ever go back and listen to old episodes of the show? And would you ever do a nostalgia episode where you go back and review your thoughts at the time? Recently, as part of my slow catch up on the ones I'd never heard, I caught up with the ones of the reactions to the first BVS teaser. It was very interesting to hear your thoughts and speculation with the benefit of 7 years of hindsight, to say the least. Similarly, are you still in touch with any of the people you used to have on regularly? I'm thinking of guys that you had at the beginning when you did the Batman the Animated Series episodes. Finally, I know you tweeted about it, but did any of you pick up the Blu-ray of the original Adventures of Batman Saturday morning cartoon? I haven't watched it yet, but somewhere in those discs is my earliest memory of Batman from when I was very small. I'm anxious to hear your thoughts. Keep the oatmeal raisin cookies signal shining bright, Mark. You had me till the end there, Mark, and then you lost me. First of all, thank you for the kind words about Catherine and about Harley. Catherine was great on the show, and Harley walking around like an expert already. And then question: so, do we ever go back and listen to old episodes of the show? Not usually, if I'm honest. Every once in a while, I will for a specific reason. Like, I think it was before we did the commentary for Batman Returns. I had forgotten that we did a commentary for Batman 89. Completely forgot about it. And so I went back and listened to it because I wanted to know what the heck we said, because I don't remember. And I really liked that episode. That turned out like really good. So stuff like that, like when it comes up in conversation just between Brendan and Jamie and myself and whoever, I go, crap, I don't remember that. And then I go back and listen. So, but it's not very common. But to do like a look back episode, oh man, like I got a similar email, I think on the last episode, about like editing together a bunch of our older reactions, and it's just so much work. It would be fun to hear thoughts of like what we thought then versus then now. I would just have to give some thought as to like how would I structure that to make it an episode, because I'm not going to go back and edit a bunch of stuff together. It's just, that's too much work. And then, like my buddies who I had on when I was still working at Disney, who would do like the animated series reviews. I had 2 of them on last year when the Batman came out, Brian and Jamie. I'm still in touch with them, but like, because we don't work together anymore, I don't see them daily like I used to. But yeah, I had them on last year because I wanted to get more input on about the Batman. And then what was the other? I have not picked up the Blu-ray of The Adventures of Batman. It's one of those things where it's like, I probably own it digitally before I'd own the Blu-ray, just because I don't buy as much physical media, and maybe that makes me a bad fan. But if it goes on sale, I might pick it up. But it's one of those that like I've owned the DVD forever, and I don't think I've watched all of it. So one of these days I might pick it up. Anything to add on any of those things, Brendan? Most of them are pretty specific, but
I have sometimes gone back, like if it's an anniversary of a movie, like I remember when it was 12 months since Wonder Woman came out, I went back and listened to our Wonder Woman episode, things like that, but it's very rarely these days. It's just some fun sometimes to go back, and I know I went back maybe last year and listened to like the Rino Romano episode you had, and a few things from before I was part of it, but again, it's been a while.
Yeah, same. And yeah, again, like if it comes up for some reason, it is sometimes fun to go back and listen, but yeah, it usually is something that has to like spring up. And yeah, like it'd be fun to go back and listen to like the review of Shazam before we go see Shazam Fury of the Gods, something like that.
Sorry to interrupt, because I honestly didn't think it was released over here. That Batman did get a Blu-ray release over here.
Oh, all right.
Never happens. I mean, I don't know if I'd worry. I mean, I've got the DVDs, and it's not. I don't know if Blu-ray's going to make much of a difference with that old style animation. Like,
it does look very good. Like I've seen the reviews online of the Blu-ray, and it looks like they did a great job on it. But like I said, like I've owned the DVDs, and I've only watched it a handful of times, so yeah, it's just not top priority, Like
the DVD from memory, I know it was the other one that had the nice cardboard packaging and stuff, the Adam West and Burt Ward one. But I mean, look, it's $35. I might wait till it comes down on sale, like it will eventually. But yeah, it's nice to know it's there as an option, because I just didn't even bother looking when you guys were talking about it the other day, because it's like, well, that won't be released here.
And I keep waiting for the HD version to pop up on iTunes. Because again, I'm more likely to buy it that way, but when I go there, it still looks like it's the standard definition. So anyway, Tim, any thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like buying a Blu-ray of that show, it'd just be like, not saying the creators' hearts weren't in it, but it definitely seems like that was like, we're churning out content when making that show. We're doing a superhero, so we're going to do it as Batman. Not saying it didn't have a lasting impact, because periodically I'll think of that intro of like when it goes through the Rogues Gallery at the beginning of every episode, like
When you're
the
not having a seizure
Yes.
from the flashing blue and red over and over and over.
The cool,
Is that the
Mr. Freeze?
Yes,
Stuff like that.
yes. Is that the pink
Or-
Riddler is in there too?
Yeah,
I
randomly.
think so. And but also the Riddler is the character that stands out the most to me because he talks out the side of his mouth how he's animated. Like he sounds like, and he speaks in such a staccato way. Like my friend and I are under the belief that the Riddler has suffered a stroke
Yeah.
at the beating of Batman. That's why he's so angry at him. It's like, and to bring him upstairs and tie him up tight. Yeah, I feel like Riddler is seriously been severely beaten. That's why he sounds like that. And his laugh, his noise is it'll be like one of the final things I hear in my mind as I shuffle off this moral coil.
I never
Like,
understood
really,
why
that-
Catwoman wore green and had a white mask either, but
It was a choice for sure.
Yeah.
But look, in saying that, before Batman the Animated Series existed, and definitely before they existed on, you could rent VHSs of them, I'd rent the shit out of those videos at the video store. And they had I think we talked about it before, they had the coolest cover art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that show as a kid. And hey, it gives us one more Batman Christmas piece of content. So
I know. The irony is that on iTunes, the cover art is still the like superpowers looking artwork, and then the show is not that at all.
yeah.
But if you buy that, won't you get the upgrade eventually? Because isn't that the iTunes bag?
Well, that usually it is, and that's why I've been checking to see if like they're going to upgrade to the HD, but they just haven't done it yet. Because I own a couple of those episodes that I bought one off. I bought the Christmas one, like you said, Brendan, and I bought the Halloween one for obvious reasons. And so it's much easier for me to complete my season. But I'm waiting for it to be HD before I do that.
I do think too, because I don't know if I've told you on this show or not, but Henry's really started to enjoy watching Batman 66.
Oh, that's awesome.
He gave me Batman 66 pajamas for my birthday, and that same morning he was a bit grizzly. I'm like, oh look, I'll show you, I'll put a random episode on. And he kind of like, he was sort of a bit mesmerized by it. And then when, if we ask him every other day, because we don't do a lot of screen time, do you want to watch something? He'll go Heroes. And it means he wants to watch Batman and Robin. So he's watched a bunch of Batman 66. I can see me putting these cartoons on for him probably sooner rather than later, actually, because to me, they've always felt like a bit of an extension of that show. Like, they're a bit cornier and stuff, and the irony is, in the later season or the next version, like Adam and Bert actually came back to voice the characters, and it's so far gone. Whereas this original one with, I can't remember Batman's name, the voice actor, but Casey Kasem doing Robin and stuff, it doesn't feel a million miles away from the 60s show. And I think that's why I enjoy it more than the later version.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And the fact that if you get him into being a Batman 66 fan, I think the only thing you could say at that is like, what a way to go. All right, I'll see myself out after that one.
Andy, we need to wrap this up. We need to wrap this up now.
All right, fortunately, that's it. So we're closing the Wayne Manor mailbox. We did empty it out, so thank you guys for your patience. That makes me feel good. If you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. But that's it. Thank you, guys. Super fun. DCEU moments. The Batman, emails. It's been a productive evening. I feel good about this. I hope you guys do too. Tim, thanks for the great idea, but no thank you for the puns.
I mean, it's the price to pay. Like, I'll have a golden nugget every now and then, but it's just surrounded by shitty puns. So it's a diamond in the rough, if you ask.
If that's the price I have to pay, I want a refund.
We didn't have a nugget. We didn't have a nugget in this episode. That's for sure.
Oh.
Well, if you mean like a nugget of shit, then it's like a nugget.
Yeah, like rabbit's belts. Like, it's everywhere. I mean, like, how many bad puns I've made so far through this show.
But we love you regardless, Tim. Let's be clear. It was a great idea for an episode, and I'm so glad that you had the time that you could join us and actually be a part of it.
Again, thank you for those kind words and having me on again to talk about it.
It was super fun. Where can our friends find you if they'd like to?
Well, if somehow you're not off put by my terrible sense of humor, you can find me both on Twitter and Instagram at This Is Tim Rooney. Rooney spelled Rooney. My YouTube channel, youtube.com/Through the Lens Productions, where all my short films are up, and where I'll be giving updates on my feature film, Where's Smiling Sarah, as it develops, as I am slowly making progress of it. Just signed off on a preliminary design of the main antagonist of that, mask wise. I have a mask maker over in England making a mask for the character, and the only podcasting I really do consistently right now is because I'm not producing it. My buddy Chris Maffei is the saint that's doing that. Canon Nostalgia, where myself, my friend Chris, and Justin and we all look at things from nostalgia from the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. You can find Canon Nostalgia wherever you get your podcasts, as well on social media, both on Twitter, Instagram. Just look for Can of Nostalgia. That's where you'll find us, and where you can keep up with whatever we're doing and what topics we are doing for our monthly show.
Awesome. Sounds good. Brendan, where can we find you, Wombat Man?
You can find me on Twitter at Lowy007 and on Facebook in the Real Fans groups.
Sweet. I already told you guys where to find me, but thank you as always for joining us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for streaming or downloading the show. We appreciate that. Please do subscribe or follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. And if you also want to support us and you don't want to do Patreon or whatever, another thing you can do that's super simple is just rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher or wherever you get your shows. It takes a minute of your day, and it would really mean a lot to us. We'd appreciate that. Go to holybatcast.com or find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. If you got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, again, that email address is holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Our theme music was created by Gaurav Venkateswar. We heard from him earlier. His work can be found at gvtunes.com. And don't forget to check out our sponsors over at manscaped.com. Do some shopping. But if you're going to make a purchase, again, use that promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. But that'll do it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
So what? So we do nothing?
No, we are doing something. We can't save everyone in this war. This is not what we came here to do.
No, but it's what I'm going to do.
I should have said on behalf of Brendan and Tim, but, it's getting late. I haven't eaten. I'm feeling peaked. Sorry, guys. Yeah.
I mean...
They already heard enough out of you.
Yeah.